9:16 a.m. And, thank you, councillors, for your attendance. Do we have anyone on the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 26th of May? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 26th of May 2021 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. And then there's another set of minutes there. Do we have the date on those?
2nd of June.
2nd of June. Do we have anyone to move on the minutes from the 2nd of June? Councillor Burkett.
I move that the minutes of the special meeting held on the 2nd of June 2021 be confirmed.
Have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Do we have anyone to move on the minutes of the 8th of June?
Mr Mayor, I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting held on the 8th of June 2021 be confirmed.
So was that yesterday?
Yesterday. We didn't have a meeting yesterday.
No, it's...
We didn't have a meeting.
Oh, where did...
Is it, should it be?
I know what's happening.
2nd of June and
We've moved some items to a false meeting, so it's popped up in the minutes, so it's
Yes.
not.
It's not...
Not needed.
We'll rescind that.
We haven't done anything yet.
but have we done 2 lots of minutes?
The minutes we've done, but I didn't know about the third one.
I didn't pick up on the date.
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
started.
trying to think what happened yesterday.
Withdraw that.
Yeah, for sure, I'll withdraw that motion.
Okay, so we'll move on to if there's anything else, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 7.1, recommendation to procure 1 4 square metre wheel loader. I've got a question. Just looking in the as part of the weighting, so when someone's got a dealership in town, it's worth 1 extra point, is it? As far as the scoring and so forth.
We actually award, it'd be 3 points generally. It's
Right.
because it'll go on the star system, which is like 5 stars is 15 points. One star is 3 points.
Yeah.
And then there's as you can, in the report, Mr Mayor, and as per council's other documentation, there's a measurement for what achieves a star rating and the various amounts of stars.
Because, obviously I believe it's good to support the local, if we've got a dealership and we can grow that competitive local business of having actually a dealership that does heavy commercial machinery rather than just agricultural machinery.
Yes.
So the other question is, have we had John Deere loaders before?
No, Mr Mayor.
Right, so we don't have any history on how that'd be.
Not a great deal. No.
And is there been any major cost in running the older machine at the moment?
A couple of years ago, it did have a fair amount of work spent on it, some $20,000-$30,000 repinning everything, some bushes, pins, line boring. Yeah. Just the conditions out here. We can have lube systems on them, but the amount of dust that gets into them, the pins and everything starts to wear because they're an articulated machine.
And do the lube systems work, or have they been a success? Or?
Yes, to a degree. Like any system, there's always some issues, but We do target the machines we put them on,
Yeah.
loaders in particular, yeah. And we have we've tried 2 or 3 different brands. We've sort of come down to one particular brand that seems to be easy for the operator to manage with as well, because they are computer controlled type units, and some can be a little bit technical at times, even for the workshops.
Yeah, right, okay. Do we have any questions, councillors?
So just out of that conversation, was that, you're saying they're untested, the John Deere, they're untested, but the other one you use quite a bit?
The recommendations for
The
the
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar, no, yeah, council's operated Caterpillar machines for quite some years.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it's actually replacing, plant 137, which is being replaced, is a early model Caterpillar 950.
Often wonder if, when you look at price difference, whether it's worth sticking with, whether,
Excuse me.
the local, you're better off going, sort of try to stay local because, basically, if you've got a local person here, well, you're looking after local people sort of thing, and basically, staff, for example, how many staff is in the local branch, in the like the one here has been suggested is sort of away, but, if you go local, well, then you're supporting local. And it's all for the difference in a price of whatever it is,
Yeah, I don't have that luxury though. We have to stick with the criteria and as per the procurement policy and that, so we can only award stars based on council's recognition of what is in the star rating.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I just looking at the star ratings, maybe, they're in the relativity of this whole thing. Relative to the whole thing, you're looking at giving so many scores to that, and then you only give like 2 to that bottom thing. Well, the bottom thing maybe should be 10, to bring it up. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, anyway, it's only a thought.
And that could be something that is brought back when we're looking at procurement. Councillor Edwards, if you'd like to change. Any other questions?
No, I was just going to say, Mr Mayor, in line of what I understand, shop locally too, but Hastings Dairying, while they don't have a outlet here, they have 2 or 3 mobile mechanics on, in the area, so, to do servicing.
And they're proven to Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Well, any other questions? Well, I'd like to move that council select RDO equipment and John Deere equipment. That's probably their title, but it's probably not their correct. It's it's in there. And do we have any wording that would go with that as far as the price and so forth?
Page 6.
4, 5, 6,
60,000.
So when they're talking about that extra 8,000 hours, does that come complimentary in the tender?
It generally does. It comes in the price. If it doesn't, when we do the assessment for apples, we'll include that in the purchase price of a machine.
I see.
So
Okay.
that's all catered. It's not an extra, unless it's listed as one.
Yeah.
I'm through you, Mr Mayor. I've just got a question. Just with the warranty, you got the whole machine warranty years, and all the rest are 5 except for John Deere. But then in the hours, it's better than the hours, like it's unlimited compared to cap ones on the others. Is there any reason for that?
Every supplier's will give you something different. None of them are the same. There's not across the board. They'll put their weightings, if I can use that term, on what they think is going to be the best deal for them to sell that machine on to us. Now, there was an option, I think, with the John Deere, if you're reading the report, where they had, the Hitachi, they'll give you 2 different options. We generally go for the longest option on the driveline because that's the expensive components, engines, transmissions, hydraulics, differentials.
Yeah, well, that's higher. There's 8,000 hours for drivetrain. That's the highest one. and 7 on the years. So that's John Deere's got the highest on those two.
Yeah, and if you read the report, councillor, that would get a high score for that.
Yeah.
But the result at the bottom of the table is what we recommend.
Mr Mayor, with the, so you'd sell these at the end of 7 years or before, but I'm just looking also there, like Hastings Deering is like a resale estimate, that's whatever that is. But the RDO one is actually a guaranteed, is that a guaranteed one? So one's an estimate and the other one's guaranteed?
Some of the suppliers will submit a guaranteed buyback.
Yep,
We've done that previously with the Hitachi loaders.
so that's certain,
That's, in writing.
Okay.
There is conditions that apply, that the machine has to go back in, say, a rental type condition, no major damage, and glass intact, 50% tyres, that sort of thing.
Where are you seeing that?
Just here,
So can I just,
resale,
Guthrie?
Mr Mayor, so
guaranteed.
the resale estimate
Oh, yeah, okay.
for the two, one is
Guaranteed, so the other one's
$163,000 after 8,000 hours, and the other is $90,000 after 8,000 hours.
That's correct.
And the 90,000's guaranteed, isn't it?
The 90,000 guaranteed.
That's in writing, yeah.
Where's that doing?
Here
Oh,
and here.
100,
Resale estimate.
163.
Councillor Hancock?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Do we have any John Deere loaders on
No,
in our plant?
no, we don't.
So we've got no previous.
We've got a number of John Deere graders.
Yeah.
We
And
don't have any
tractors.
loaders at this point in time.
Is most of our plant
Excuse me.
the Caterpillars?
We've probably got something a bit over 20 Caterpillar units out there, a mix of loaders, backhoe loaders, graders, skid steer loaders, that sort of thing, the track loader.
So if council decided to go with a different brand, how will that go? You've spoken to us before about trying to keep things a bit the fleet the same for material services. That sort of
With
stuff?
the loader, it's not going to bother us a great deal as far as maintenance goes or support through stores. When I've spoken previously about uniforming things, that's more things where we have multiples of them, like the utes,
And
so we
trucks.
can juggle them around.
Filters and stuff like that.
Now, our original recommendation for this loader to the department was another 5-cube loader, same as the other 3 big loaders we got. Because this machine will be working in quarries, it won't be working in the waste. It'll be working in pits, more than quarries. But the department preferred to have one smaller loader.
So, sorry. Yeah. Just to go on further too, just to understand all this, so this is an extended warranty, is it? Is this a normal, usual warranty, but you don't have to pay more for an extended warranty?
No, they'll either put the price of the extended warranty in the purchase price of the machine, or they will list it as a separate price. When they do that, we generally load that into the price of the machine, so it is apples for apples. The reason they'll do that is when this advertisement goes out, a request for the quotations, we actually put out what our criteria is for the assessment. Now, they know warranty is a big thing with Maranoa Regional Council purchases. So they'll tend to offer very good warranties, maybe to us. We've even had some of the car dealers give us bigger warranties than if somebody just went off the street to buy one,
That's good.
because they'll try
Well,
and get that
it's good to
sale.
get the warranty, I mean. Yeah, good to get the warranty. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just, sorry, did you?
Well, who was first?
Councillor O'Neill.
No, you were first.
Yeah, Councillor Burkett.
Just with I know there's some John Deere tractors and stuff like it, and the graders on council.
Yes.
The staff have any issues? They don't have any dramas with whichever they operate. They're all pretty
No,
well uniform.
Jed, you will always get some people that prefer a particular brand, and you're never going to please everybody.
No.
But we've never had any significant hazard reports or anything like that put on a machine just because it was that type of control or that brand of machine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Through the chair, Dave, so just explain to me this resale estimate. Some are listed as an estimate and some are committed to at the 8,000 hours, 8-year mark, they'll pay X.
That's correct. The resale estimates we get resale estimates on all the machines regardless of what is offered to us. and we use a certified valuer to do that. But when they come in, sometimes the actual valuer's estimate will be below the offered buyback price or above it.
So you don't know.
Yeah, the market can fluctuate. It's surprising some of the older machines now sell for better price than some of the later model machines because people can maintain them easier by themselves rather than needing someone with a computer or.
Yeah.
We found that when we sold some of the old G model stuff and H model stuff, it was selling better than some of the M's.
So it's more important, just to follow up through you, Chair, it's more important to look at the buyback offer rather than the estimate, the resale estimate. So the buyback is Caterpillar will at the 8-year, 8,000 mark, will buy it back for 266,000 round figures.
The Caterpillar is an estimate.
Yep.
Yeah, the John Deere's a guaranteed buyback.
DO is a
163 is
guarantee.
So then the next line down, buyback offer excluding GST
Where's that?
is 266,000.
No, that's the capital ownership.
That's
That's
the-
basically.
Oh,
the-
I see, there's no buyback offer.
No,
No.
Oh,
that's why there's nothing right across
oh, I
that
just sort of
line.
continued, I beg your
Yeah,
pardon.
and the next line down here, it says that John
Yeah, a
Deere.
bit hard to.
Through you,
Guaranteed.
Mr Mayor, another thing I'm noticing too, the RDO equipment, Vermeer John Deere, it's nearly the second lightest machine out of the lot listed.
Yes,
Weight has got a little bit to do with
with
when you're
loaders.
trying to load in trucks.
That's
If you're
correct.
trying to keep efficiently, your lighter machine, the lighter the machine, yeah.
Works harder. The lot of the machine, what?
Well, you don't get as much grip because you haven't got as
Yeah.
much, you've got a
Weight.
full, and especially if you had a
Working
5, I know this is only a 4 metre bucket, but if you had a 5 metre bucket.
Well, we wouldn't put a 5 metre bucket on any of
On
those
this-
machines.
no, these
Not
not.
with the products.
No.
Like, I can tell you, for instance, the Caterpillar there, if you look at the brochure, it'll have up to a 10 cube bucket.
Yeah,
But that may be for handling grain or coal
Yeah.
or something. With our products, we tend to go for a little bit heavier machine and with the bucket because, like the councillor mentioned, there's stability issues besides traction issues. And you remember these machines are pushing up stockpiles as well.
not, this one's not necessarily for the quarry. as you
No,
said,
but it'll be
it's for
working-
out in the
In the pits, councillor.
various pits, yeah.
So, Mr Mayor, I actually want to understand that a bit more, Councillor
Well, the
McConnell.
heavier the machine, the better traction you get on the ground.
That's right.
Because you're
So-
trying to, you're
Yeah.
digging into your pit, trying
So
to,
putting it
just
with what we've got here between the Cat and the John Deere, the Cat and the John Deere, what?
well, the
which would
Cat's
be
a
the
heavier
be-
machine.
It would be the heavier machine, so it would be better for.
It's not the
job, is
heaviest
it?
of the,
Hitachi's.
The Hitachi's the
It's the
heaviest
heaviest,
machine on that list. But
Would the John Deere still do the job that we need?
yes,
It'll do the job.
the
but it'll do
You're
the
having
job.
some like I
Well, goes back to operators.
it does come down to personal preference.
But through you, Mr Mayor, I'm sorry, Dave, but when I say operators, some guys will just dive that bucket and just sit there gouging on the wheels and be just. Whereas, instead of doing, it just depends on who's operating them,
A lot of variables.
do you see that as a problem?
It could be.
Could be.
I'm not saying it will be, because you don't know. I've seen blokes get on a loader, and not just a loader, a lot of machines, trucks too. They'll just sit there spinning the wheels until something gives, And I'm not saying our operators do that, but that's something you got to.
A lot of that's technique too, councillor,
Yeah.
when you're going into a stockpile. Crowd the bucket as you're
But
coming
I-
in to fill your bucket.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Dave, would you agree a heavy machine is better?
My preference would be a heavier machine,
Yeah.
councillor. Yes.
But you got the Komatsu there, and there's a lot of Komatsu loaders used, and that's even lighter by
Yeah, that's
nearly
right.
another tonne.
Not much different to the second Hitachi.
So I think, yeah. Anyway, let's test the motion.
Excuse me?
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just
Councillor
have one,
Taylor,
Dave, just through you,
please.
Mr Mayor. Can I ask why you recommended the Hastings Deering one then?
The reason being overall score.
It's just for
is-
the overall
That's
score?
it. We tried to be as transparent as possible,
Yep,
and we try to use maths as much as possible to get a result rather than a preference. We're not
okay.
saying we like a
Yep.
particular brand. We can't always guarantee what's going to come in. Same with light vehicles or anything else. Sometimes dealers will actually almost buy the sale. So we just try to be as black and white as possible for council.
Thank you.
Just got one more question.
Please go ahead.
Dave, so there's no track instead of a wheel, there's no,
It's wheels.
there's no track one equivalent that
There are track loaders, councillor, but council does own a track loader, but they're
expensive.
probably considerably slower
Oh, right.
in that sort of process.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah. Wheel loaders are much preferred for loading out trucks and that sort of thing.
yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'd like to move that we select RDO Equipment, Vermeer and John Deere Equipment as the recommended supplier of one 4 square metre loader and accessories at a cost of $456,500, including GST, excluding registration and CTP insurance. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter the final negotiations with Hastings Deering Australia Limited and raise the purchase orders if the final terms are acceptable. Do we have a seconder for that?
Got
Excuse
a
me,
question on that, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, please go
the
ahead.
second point, that should have been RDO equipment.
Yep. What did I say? Was it the other wording,
Hastings
was it?
Deering.
No. Okay, point 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter in final negotiations with RDO Equipment, Vermeer and John Deere Equipment and raise the purchase orders if the final terms are acceptable. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition?
I've just got a further question. if
Sure.
I can. Through you, Mayor. The time frame of delivery. 12 weeks is what the Mayor's proposing, and then what was recommended was 24 weeks. How soon do you need a piece of equipment?
The current machine is serviceable. Obviously, the sooner we get them, the better is our preference. Caterpillar, though, they will, in every submission they gave us, they quote a factory price, so they don't put themselves in a position where they can't supply. They have advised us that they do have the IT version in stock, and that's just a matter of changing either the bucket coupler or the lift arm assembly off it to a standard 62M. So it would be delivered shorter than 24 weeks, but Caterpillar will always guarantee, same as Toyota, with the light vehicles, they'll always put down
Tell me about
the
it.
factory delivery.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any opposition? I've asked that. I'll speak to the motion. I certainly believe with the situation with the 7-year powertrain warranty and 8,000 hours, I do believe it reduces risk for council. I also believe that if this motion is passed, will support competitive local business, because for the first time in the region, I believe we have a heavy industrial actual dealership in the region, and I believe, as we would like to grow the Maranoa, that is a very important situation, and creating competitive local business by supporting local business hopefully would bring even others into the marketplace and allow opportunities for even growing economic development through other businesses that have the ability to have that dealership there for heavy construction equipment. So I believe that this motion will support competitive local business in the Maranoa, which is one of our responsibilities. Okay, would anyone like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak? Okay, well then I'll sum up. I just...
Mayor, you only sum up if there
Oh,
was...
someone else has spoken, is it? Righto.
I'd probably like to say something. if you
Please go ahead.
Yeah, just looking at it in detail, when you look at the price difference between the two and then you divide that by the hours that it's apparently on the ground with warranty, I mean, it comes out to be, a fairly, $7 an hour or something. So But not only that, yeah, I think you've just got to look at some of the figures sometimes. And the resale estimate, I think, is an estimate. The other one is actually a guarantee, so that's a good difference there. But above all, I think it's great for the local, just for the development of Roma, supporting a local competitive business. I think that's the best thing going for it.
Okay, well then I'll sum up. No, this is an opportunity, I believe. Council has a lot of equipment. Obviously, there's been requested the need to upgrade this piece of machinery, and it's very hard to work out strengths and weaknesses if you don't have a machine. So I believe this is an opportunity to see how the John Deere performs if it is supported, and it also supports the fact that a business has made the decision to sell heavy construction equipment in their dealership in the Maranoa. Okay, so on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 7-2 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. Uh, 7.2, Roma Saleyards prime sales. Do we have a mover? Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that due to the recommendation from the Roma Livestock Agents Association, RLAA, Council 1 nominate Tuesday as a regular sale day for prime cattle until the end of December 2021. This will give certainty to producers that prime sale cattle are auctioned weekly at Roma. 2, undertake a review in December 2021 in consultation with the RLAA and bring a report back to council.
We have a seconder. Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 8.1, replacement of wooden blades, Yuleba. Do we have any questions? I'd like to move that council, I think it's, I'd like to move that council liaise with Yuleba Development Group and other men's shed groups in the Maranoa to canvass whether they would be interested in undertaking a trial to manufacture wooden street signs for Yuleba that are compliant and meet requirements of the relevant Australian standards for street signs, being AS/NZS 1242.5. 2, be prepared with the subsequent report should point 1 of the resolution progress, outlining the results of the trial, including the possible cost of manufacture and the maintenance and performance of the signs, including paint and illuminated elements. 3, that an interim and only on as required basis replace existing signage that is no longer legible with aluminium street blades to ensure street navigation is not impacted. Do we have a seconder?
You just said that number incorrectly on the top line.
Okay, on the top line, you mean?
The being AS/NZS.
Okay, I'll say that again, being AS/NZS 1742.5 point. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards.
Question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, I'm just interested to understand the point on page 30 where it says it's understood there has been interest from the local Yuleba community in potentially retaining a number of the traditional wood street signs in town. How we ascertain that, and the reason I ask that is because when this was presented to council last year, would have been, I was at a Yuleba Development Group meeting and I raised it with the Yuleba Development Group meeting. I think Councillor McMullen was there, and to my surprise, there was not support to maintain the wooden signs. In fact, they want the aluminium signs. So I just want to understand where the interest has come from the Yuleba community.
Well, sorry, over to the officer first.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We've had feedback just through the development group that there was interest in the community, but by the sound of it, that's yeah.
Formally?
I don't think so, Councillor O'Neill. Yep.
Because that's, sorry, Mayor, that is conflicting. Councillor McMullen, you will remember the conversation.
I was just going to say through you, Mr. Mayor, depends.
Different committee.
Meeting. No, I'm not being, but not at every meeting the same people aren't always there. And there is a little bit of a division as to what but I don't know how we work it out.
Through you, Chair. Further background, obviously we started replacing a couple down there. It generated some excitement about the old traditional timber signs there. So
that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Between obviously the group, but as you rightly said, not formally. But yeah, this is where the whole background of this one comes from. So we just
Well, Councillor Burkett first, then Councillor McMullen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Director Cam, when you say it's not all signs, are they happy just in the CBD part of it, or just to keep that touristy vibe going, or is it?
Councillor Burkett, there's about 46 signs left there, the old timber signs. So there's already been some replaced with aluminium. Just street signs don't seem much, but they're absolutely critical at night in an emergency situation. So we've replaced them as needed. But this is just a carryover from a previous discussion that come to the chambers on it. So to answer your question, Yuleba currently is a mixture of the standard, what you would call the current sort of aluminium, but there is some old timber street signage left.
Yeah, just with the feedback, were they curious on keeping in a certain area? I mean, sorry, like
Not the CBD.
yeah, like just tourist value sort of thing.
Yeah.
Also,
I think it's fair to say we haven't had that level of discussion with any particular party. It was just more that there what's happening with their timber street signs and that. So I see that as a critical discussion down the track, but not until we can prove that it can be manufactured if it's even possible long term, because the real
Paint, wasn't it? There was something about the paint.
Reflective paint, but there's generally a way around things, but it might take some problem solving by the sounds of it. So
yeah, the real critical stuff is just the illumination. But it's I can't sit here and say it's not possible. It would be possible. It's just for a sign to work at night, you need a blank paint and an illuminated paint. That's why the letters stand out. So it's the illumination. So you could route out the street name, get some sort of really high performance glue that then glues in illuminated letters. It's possible, but if that's going to last 6 months in the western sun and the illumination starts to fall out, that sign will be, you won't see that at night. No. So that was if there was an interest, there would be worth exploring. But
you only got to see some of the speed signs that face west, like they're nearly faded. Altogether.
Just on that motion, the other thing I'd just like to adjust is and men's groups, and I'd also like to add point 4 that consultation occur as part of operating locally with the local director after September in relation to general community feedback on this matter. Because, anyway, was the seconder happy with that?
Yes.
Righto. Okay, so we got a motion.
Just, I've got a question, Mr Mayor, just so I'm clear. So are we just saying now that we don't want our staff to do anything after this resolution, just let it sit until September, until the new director starts and he's going to take over this project? Is that
No,
that means?
no, all of the other points are going to happen. And also, obviously, Yuleba Development have a certain amount of members that come to meetings, but there is obviously quite a lot of Yuleba that doesn't come to meetings, so the local director can manage that, because obviously, from what I understand, there's got to be questions and challenges how we can do this, but as far as what the community want down there, as well as talking to the local development group, it's also the director after September can, obviously this has been a long-term issue, we're dealing in this report and that there is any safety issues are going to be dealt with, so they're going to be dealt with, so to me it's part of a long-term discussion that needs to happen, and probably as part of developing increased population growth and community happiness, what does the community want to see as far as themes for the Yuleba community? Because the community has been very strong on the attractiveness and beautification and so forth, so this would be part of a bigger story, I believe.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
could I just make a suggestion?
Yeah,
Would it be
sure.
possible to consider moving dot point number 2 to the bottom, just
Yes.
so it reads, we go and talk to see whether there's groups even interested in this.
Yep.
We'll replace as required.
Yep.
Consultation be undertaken when the local area director's there. Then a subsequent report be brought back to council, just so
Yeah.
we're not sort of bringing a report back and
Yeah,
we
that's a
haven't
good
done
idea.
number 3. So
Yeah.
That's
if
what
that's
I was
okay.
concerned about.
Yeah. No, good, I'm happy with that. Is the seconder happy with that? Righto. Any opposition to the motion? I'll speak to the motion. Certainly believe that I hear many comments about lovely small communities, and I believe that council has made the decision to operate locally from September. This is going to be fantastic to give residents the ability to talk to their local boss, and in that situation, this is something that can be looked at, as well as our local Yuleba Development Group, but also the rest of the community that may not be represented in what they would like to see as a theme. The council before amalgamation had a historic theme with their timber signs, street signs, and people were, I think, very proud of it. And obviously there's different views in the community. We need to make sure we focus on safety as being number one, but also how do we keep that beautiful historic feel and attractiveness of Yuleba, and I believe that really should be handed over to the residents as well as our officers that will look from a safety point of view. Okay, so does anyone else wish to speak against the motion or speak? We're going to go, Councillor Edwards?
Yeah, I'd just like to know, so basically this will come back for another go, won't it? So, yeah, and at that point, when the old signs do get removed, what happens to them? That's a question I'd probably like to ask. Do they just get destroyed, or are they offered for people who've got an historical bent on things, or what would happen with the old signs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we obviously
Or they had it?
appreciate that there is some value in them signs, so like we wouldn't be going and throwing them in the bin. We've got a similar one in Mitchell that we're currently looking at the moment, where we would retain it and that, so they're not something we'd just go and bin until we worked out exactly what council wanted to do there. So.
Yeah, thanks.
And the crucial part of it is that we actually are saying fix the ones that are in need of a safety issue, but then we're going to get a longer term, bigger solution through Yuleba Development Group as well as the community. Obviously organised through the local director about what the whole community would like to see as a theme and what they would like. And that will take some time.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 8.2, Mitchell Disability Access Improvements to CBD. Councillor Burkett.
I'll move it, but just before I got a question, through you, Mr Mayor, to Deputy Director. This is great, the community's been crying out for this and been getting a lot of questions lately, and I said that it's been all measured up and everything, so just with site 6, as opposed to site 2, coming across to the Berkeley Lodge, is it because of the condition and the spec that one's first, just that the site 6 is probably more readily used, or is that because it's in a lot better order? Yeah, I'm just curious, that was all.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, it was probably that, Councillor Burkett. It's probably a little bit wider. I didn't see it as restrictive, but there'd be nothing stopping. It's one extra while we're there. There'd be nothing stopping having site 6 added to part 1 of that resolution, and it'd be 2, 5, and 6, and that. But I probably wasn't sure how much council wanted to sort of do on this particular project, so I could see a clear distinction between site 2 and 5 as being quite narrow, and that site 6 was probably okay, but I know exactly what you're saying. It's a lot closer to that. Like Mitchell's got sort of 2 key blocks there, and that's the join between the 2. So I can see exactly what you're saying. But 2 and 5 was just there was just obvious they were quite narrow, and that. So that's why 2 and 5 are there. But
the site 6 has got a driveway not within 20 metres of it, I suppose. That gives an access at the moment, I suppose.
yeah, it's not ideal to be using driveways for pedestrians if you can get away with it, particularly in that sort of close area. So, and it probably the other thing with site 6 is it's just a bit misaligned, as you'd see in my notes. It sort of points out to the centre of the road. It really needs to be just shifted around a little bit more towards the ambulance and pointing straight towards the ambulance. It's sort of pointing out there. So, but yeah, as I said, if there was some interest in site 6, it would be as simple as just adding that one. There's nothing scary about why it was excluded. It was purely I could just see a distinct difference between 2, 3 and the others. 2, 5 and the others to clarify. But yeah, no, that was the logic there.
Okay, well,
We've got another question, Councillor Hancock, and I've got one too.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm just flagging this, you guys are probably already over it, but I guess when we undertake the community consultation, I think it'd be beneficial to make sure that we're talking to the service providers in Mitchell to get their feedback, the people who are actually working within that sector of the community as well, just to see, where they actually are trying to access the footpath network now. And
Righto. Can I ask, the one next, or just on the side street next to the news agency, what number is it?
Got a number, they're all
That's
numbered.
6. That's the 6 one I'm talking about. That's the one that comes up a lot, but because it's the busiest section.
Because the feedback I've had is that that's the number 1 that needs to be done. So what was the issue, or can we change that to?
It's changed.
I've got that.
But is there a technical reason to?
No, not at all, Mr Mayor. It's definitely wider than 2 and 5. 2 and 5 are really restrictive. You'd struggle to get a actual wheelchair or something through it. So it was slightly. If I was looking at it purely from a technical perspective, it was slightly wider. The grade was not there, but I wouldn't sit here and dispute that what comments you're receiving. They would be valid.
And people are using that one at the moment. Like, they're using that to offload, wheelchairs and that. So it is being used. Councillor Guthrie?
Mr Mayor, I think it's also worth mentioning that corner is where the buses all they stop. So people with suitcases and a whole range of different things would actually need better access to that corner.
Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, just through you to Deputy Director Cam, on these plans, where 6 is that where the crossing will be? Where the dot is?
That's where that crossing is. It's a coloured crossing. It's red. It's just a red coloured concrete that just goes out onto there. So,
Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, I'm just happy to move.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'd like to move that council approve the inclusion of sites 2, 5 and 6 as part of the scope of works for the Regional Footpath Improvements Project Initiative. 2, commence discussions with Queensland Rail with the view of seeking and upgrade at the Alice Street level crossing to include at a minimum the widening of the existing footpaths at this location. And 3, undertake community consultation including direct contact with adjacent businesses to see feedback on the possible option of installing 2 new people with disabilities PWD parks on the northern and southern sides of Cambridge Street as per the location shown in the report.
I'm happy to second that. On point 3, would the mover would consider adding in consult, obviously with Bringa Action Group?
We could probably put a Bringa Action Group and
Yeah, and the
service providers as well. No, I just thought that was captured with the community consultation.
I think it's good to have it actually noted with Bringa Action Group and all
Service providers.
all businesses in Mitchell, because it's not a big community, and you get the feedback about this, because sometimes I've noticed we've gone fairly close, and of course we need to, but then other people got valuable information as well. So if we ask, and yeah, it's a bit more work, but it could be, there's not that many businesses in the whole CBD. You've obviously got the tyre shop and so forth, but they've all probably got a story to tell to be able to help. And
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to add that in.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, when you say all businesses could we say in the CBD
In the
as
CBD.
opposed to Mitchell? Because,
sorry, in the CBD, but just letting you know that, like, for instance, the tyre shop is in the side street, but it's still
I'd
there.
class it as a CBD still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, that ring around it, yeah. Okay, and
Second it.
Oh, sorry.
seconded that. And, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, I just think this is a great project to bring forward to the Mitchell community. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of questions been asked about this subject, and I think with the amount of people on gophers, especially at the moment, there's been a big need for a bit of safety to get them off the streets, and also elderly people crossing the road. So I think this is a great initiative, and look forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Okay, anyone else like to speak? I'd just like to say, I've had a fair bit of feedback about improvement of disability services, and I believe that the most important need that we as councillors can do is to try and drive this as far forward, because disability transport has changed a lot, and we've got to obviously change our pedestrian and disability services transport ability, and anything we can do will make it better for our residents and also visitors, because visitors are a big part of this as well, and we need to make them as friendly as town as possible. Okay.
Just to sum up, I'd just like to thank Deputy Director Cam and his staff for doing all this. Also, that one of the ones on site going across from the Mitchell Cafe to the library, there's been a few falls there, so I think that'll be very welcome to get that rectified.
Okay, well, on that note, we go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 9.1, RFT 21031, Injune commercial space. I've got a question. Did you have a question, Councillor
No,
Cup?
I was going to move it.
Righto. I've got a question. Have we confirmed if there is a decision with this, will this be premature in being able to find out, obviously, whether there is a fit out available and so forth? Will it trigger the fact that we may not have a cafe there, or what's your view on that?
Mr Mayor, in the documentation that the tender has provided, they've indicated that they've had conversations with the existing lessees of the cafe with the view to purchasing the equipment that the current lessees have, which will assist with a smoother transition and a quicker transition.
Righto. Yeah, Councillor Ladbroke.
The Hornick family, have they run anything like this before? Just interested. Interesting.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not sure. They have indicated that they have been involved in business before,
Okay.
but whether or not they've been involved in cafes, I'm not certain.
Oh, we had Councillor McMullen.
I was just going to say, Mr Mayor, through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not sure whether they've definitely got business. They've got the sawmill and all that. They run the sawmill, but I don't want to say I think we're pretty lucky that they've put their hand up because.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
You know, like
but
you
I
got to
don't
give
think
them a
it'll be an
go.
issue. I'm sure.
Right.
The family on.
Oh, no, it's very good.
I think they're gonna
I would
keep
imagine
staff on.
Nikki will run it, and I think she's fairly
Yep.
efficient in any job she's been in. So
Yep. Just need good
Mr Mayor, I was
basics too.
just going to add to that she has been heavily involved in the PNF for many, many years and actively involved in lots and lots of functions where she's actually been part of preparing food, etc. So I have absolute confidence that this will be a successful venture.
Good, eh?
Yeah, so it sounds like it's amicable about trying to get the shop fit out and all of that, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct from my understanding, yes.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council select the Trent Hornick Family Trust as the recommended tenderer for tender 21031, lease of commercial space, 32 Hutton Street, Injune. And number 2, council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into final negotiations with the Trent Hornick Family Trust and execute the lease 1 year with the option of additional 5 times 1 year options if the terms are acceptable.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd just like to say that this has been a very topical matter for a period of time, and I know that the people in Injune will be very, very pleased to see surety for the future, and that local people are actually going to have their hearts and soul in making this a successful venture.
Okay, and I'd like to speak. I believe this is exciting, and if everyone can work together to make it happen, it will be very beneficial. I'd also like to thank the current proprietors have done a fantastic job, and we look forward to everyone enjoying it in the future as well. Okay, no one else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Oh, just going back to that tender, because it was against the recommendation, we need to have some wording.
John Deere, the tractor.
Just go to the loo.
So supporting competitive local business is one that, that I will have, but it's already up there. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add? Okay, thank you. Righto, moving on to 9.2. Wallumbilla Town Improvement Request for Assistance, Wallumbilla Hall. Do we have any questions or a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 approve and accept the offer from Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group Inc. to install audio-visual equipment at the Wallumbilla Hall. 2, assume responsibility for the maintenance of the audio-visual equipment once installed.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0.
I'll jump in.
55. Is it? 55? 9.3, request for sponsorship, Queensland Young Auctioneers Competition. Do we have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council provides in principle support for the request to sponsor the 2021 Queensland Young Auctioneer Competition. The amount of $4,000 for sponsorship of 2021 Queensland Young Auctioneer Competition be considered in the upcoming budget for the 2021 2022 financial year, and branding for the sponsorship is the Roma Saleyards logo.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Item 9.4, Department of Human Services, Surat Access. I would like,
Mr Mayor, no, can we actually remove this one? We've actually, since the report was actually included in the agenda, we've been contacted by the department. They want to reissue a new contract, and the new one with an agent in place. So
this is how it was.
this is how it was, Mr Mayor. So that report's already been done. It's in for the next agenda, for the next meeting.
Righto.
But this one was put in before we had that request and approved. So if we can have this item removed, you'll be coming back before council next meeting.
Right.
I'll move that this item be removed from the agenda.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. All those in favour? 8-0.
Page 62. We're on to page 80 now, George.
Item 9.5, expressions of interest bus route from Surat to Roma. Councillor Hancock,
Mayor, I would like to declare a declarable interest.
please go ahead.
I did send you something, Cal, so you'll be able to copy and paste it over. On agenda item 9.5, declarable interest, the declaring council is myself, Councillor Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is myself and my husband Graham Hancock. Relationship with the category is Surat Post and News Proprietary Limited. Particulars of interest is Surat Post and News Proprietary Limited have a business in the main street of Surat, and local businesses have been mentioned in the report, but not individually. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest. Action, I will choose to remain in the meeting, however, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay. So do we have anyone that's got any wording? Councillor Taylor?
I've got the paperwork.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 9.5 because a reasonable person would trust that the final decision was made in the public interest.
We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, expressive interest, bus route from Surat to Roma. I'd like to move, it's recommended that council receive and note the officer's report as presented. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, yeah, not that it is recommended, just that council receive and note the report,
Yeah.
officer's report, isn't it?
Well, it's got here, it's recommended.
No, presented.
You
Yeah, but
change it to
that's-
what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
That's what's in there.
Well, mine's got,
it is recommended,
It is
which is not
recommended.
what we normally.
Mine says represented.
Mine says
Yeah, it is
recommended.
recommended that council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
Oh, sorry,
I'm just
okay.
asking for the word recommend to
Sorry,
be taken
yeah.
out and just receive and note it.
are you as happy as, did you second that, Councillor McMullen?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah, I was, the recommended up the front, I was looking at the back.
Okay, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. So we're going to the late open. L1, proposed administrative amendment to Maranoa planning scheme. Do we have any questions, councillors? Do we have a mover? McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that council, one, prepare an administrative amendment to the Maranoa Planning Scheme 2017. Two, decide to adopt proposed amendment number 4 to the Maranoa Planning Scheme 2017 as presented in the supporting documents to this report. 3, give effect to proposed amendment number 4 on 30 June 2021. 4, fulfil the requirements of making an administrative amendment for section 20 of the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. L2, changes to development conditions for RCTC Caravan Park expansion, reference 2020/20118.
I have a
Taylor,
I have a conflict.
go ahead.
On item L2, the description is changes to the development of conditions for the Roma Clay Target Club Caravan Park expansion, reference 2020/20118. The declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Wendy Taylor. Party with interest is myself. I am the treasurer of the Roma Clay Target Club. I have a declarable conflict of interest and will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay. Any other conflicts?
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, the officers asked, can this one lay on the table to later in the meeting? We've just received some correspondence this morning relevant to that application, so.
Righto. Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move item L2 lay on the table till later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have we don't need a seconder, but we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Barely enough time to catch your breath.
Chair was getting comfy.
You just got in.
Next page number, please.
55. Yes, 55. It's a long way away.
L3 Surat Golf Club Incorporated request for financial assistance. Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that council include the requested Surat Golf Course upgrades as part of its 2021-22 budget deliberations.
We've got you a seconder, councillor?
Yep.
Righto, we've got a question, have we?
I'm just wondering, Councillor McMullen, if you would consider an amendment. I'm just a little bit concerned about, so it's not really the Surat Golf Course that we're upgrading, it's the Surat Golf Club, Surat Golf Clubhouse. So I'm just wanting to be a bit clearer, if you'd consider that amendment.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask, is there any reason why was it just a miss? Is
Or
it,
the wording?
yeah,
No.
no,
probably
just a miss.
The wording.
Why
of the
just sort of might?
officers.
No, that's all right. I'm quite happy for the
That
change.
encompasses the whole place.
I actually started to say golf club and then I read it.
Because it might mean,
Yeah, no,
they
it's fine.
might then think that it might be the.
No, I'm happy with the change.
Okay, so seconder, happy with that?
Yes, I am.
Righto.
Can I ask
Taylor,
a question,
please.
please, through you? Manager Tanya, that's a lot of money for 6 golfers, like,
Well, potentially more.
yeah, potentially what, 8? Like, that's a lot of money to be putting up into the budget, like,
So councillor Taylor, it's part of deliberation, so it may, like a lot of things, may not go forward. It will just really be part of deliberations, so, you know. but you're quite welcome to speak against it if you'd like to.
I just think it needs really looking at pretty closely. Okay, if it's just going up to the next level, I'm happy to have that happen, but I just think there's a lot of money here.
And I think there, as part of this, there was some assistance, and this is obviously, if it was the whole lot, it would be a lot more assistance than we'd considered before. Councillor
Yeah,
McMillan?
Mr Mayor, it's in the report, they have that $35,000
Doesn't cover it,
grant that is there a little bit, yeah.
So we have a mover and a seconder. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Does the mover wish to speak for the motion?
No, I'm happy, thanks. Mr Mayor.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Just,
Councillor Burke?
yeah, I just think, regardless of, I'm not getting into the price side of things, but I do think it's something that the Surat community's been pushing for. I've had a couple of people talk to me about it, and I understand there's a lot of ways to go yet, but I think if we can get another sporting club going in some way, that'd be great for the community.
Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I also agree with Councillor Taylor that it is a lot of money, but I do note in the report that there is areas that we could support them and there's areas that they actually might need more support than other areas. This is a whole thing they're looking for, but there is maybe within the budget deliberations we can break it down and see how we can support their, you know, they've gone to the trouble of being successful for the grant. So it's really sort of how we can support that process for them is how I see it.
Yeah, I'm
I
happy.
just probably should say something, Mr Mayor. In years gone by, the old golf club was a second point in town for functions. You know, like there was, I won't say every Friday, but there was a lot of functions down there, but I think they sort of drank beer there a lot, you know, once or twice a week, and probably open up the community more, give them I'm not having a go at the pub, but I mean just an alternative function area, you know, location.
Councillors, just probably give an idea, Mr Mayor, that, you know, what you do for about 280-300, that netball courts clubhouse we built in Roma, that facility there, that was around about the dollars there, that was about 300 there for that facility.
For the netball.
Yeah, that clubhouse down at Bassett Park we constructed,
Yeah.
councillors.
And how many people use that?
So we've been picking a picture of what 300 does, that's about the dollars, yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, I just have another question, Mr Mayor. Just looking at timing, and I'm just going to their letter. Do we know how long they've got with that community gambling benefit grant, Manager Tanya?
Through me, Mr Mayor, no, I'm not sure of the timing, but I do know that facility staff have been speaking to the chair of president of the Surat Golf Club regarding, and he's aware this report's coming to council.
Yeah.
And that the prices, he's also viewed pricing, and that's about on par as to what he thought it was going to cost to do the project. Thank you.
Righto, so has everyone had a chance to speak? Righto, does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Righto, we're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on to L4. Request for update, Wallumbilla Showgrounds, ablution septic. Councillor Guthrie.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to move that council number 1 allocate an additional $101,715 excluding GST, a total budget of $131,715 in the 2020-2021 budget to complete the Wallumbilla Showgrounds wastewater upgrade, with the funds being transferred from W022307 Roma pool refurbishment of change rooms to allow disabled access pending pool upgrade timing. 2, award the Wallumbilla Showgrounds wastewater upgrade works to West Wet Plumbing Proprietary Limited. And 3, provide the Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group with an update on the project.
We have a seconder.
Oh,
You got a question?
I got a question, yeah. Like I'm all for this project to go ahead, it's just that the breakdowns of, they just, once again, I'm just a bit curious on the pricing and how the breakdown of it, it just seems a lot of money. So I was just curious on the breakdown of each one, if that's possible.
Probably the big,
Like, it's not
the
gonna
big-
affect my decision at the
no,
moment, I
no,
just,
probably the big price you'll notice there, councillors, is actually the treatment plant and associated works. They're all around about that, 75,000. As you're familiar probably with any of your Aussie cleans and all those domestic ones you're probably looking at 15,000, which is probably what probably council was looking at in their original budget. About 35 was probably about 15 for that plant, 15 for the wastewater. Obviously had to get it engineered design, so we obviously used a local engineering firm to do the engineering design for it, and they've designed it based on what the user is going to get with the small caravan park, and to comply with a environmental authority. So it's like an ERA, so it's like a mini sewage treatment plant. So that's the big difference there. So it's not like an Aussie clean or one of those ones we're familiar with, which as you know, which will probably cater for a few dozen.
it has to go worst case
They've
scenario.
gone worst case scenario, and that's why, and that's the big difference. So from a domestic one in the order of 15,000, you're now looking at 75,000 for more of a commercial one, because it's not just for the show, it's also for the caravan park. That's the big difference in price.
No, thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
I'm just, Director Rob, so which option are we going for here?
West.
Yeah, that's the
Oh, sorry.
thing, but there's option 1 or option 2 on this thing here. Well, it's stage 2.
One's discharged on site, one's discharged off site.
It appears to me as if it's option 1 when you look at the price.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's option 1, which will make, it's the subsurface irrigation discharged on the showground site. The other option is for discharged off-site, which would involve council having to negotiate or something with neighbouring properties.
So have we already spent some, because that's 127,000, this says 101,000. So
It's an additional.
Additional one.
additional to this.
No, additional to the,
Budget allocation.
Oh, we didn't, but
didn't have enough in the budget, so we're adding
we
it.
only budget 20,000.
No,
30.
30.
So through you, Mr Mayor, as I was saying, so that budget of 30 was based on like a domestic size one, which is about 15 grand to purchase, and another 15 for the effluent disposal, which is about 30. So when they've got it designed up, they've said, well, you've got a caravan park there, so you've got to design it based on the commercial size. So rather than being 15, as I said on that page, page 74 there, when you look at the breakdown there, your treatment plant and associated works is about 75, and that's your big difference there in there too. So initially that 30, they had a budget of 30,
had 30.
and they were going to put in a domestic size one, which would have probably handled, 3, 4, 5 caravans there. But when we've got it designed, they've designed it as a caravan park, and they've taken it up to worst case scenarios, councillor.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
uh,
Well, we've got a bit of a traffic jam here, so it's Councillor McMullen,
Through you,
then
Mr Mayor.
Hancock, then Edwards.
Just got a question for probably Director Rob, through you. Option 1, subsurface irrigation, is that, that's not a sprinklers? So it's not going to be another similar system to what's at the other end of the showgrounds, which has created problems?
No, through you, Mr Mayor, it's subsurface, it'll be underneath the ground.
Yeah, but
I think councillor's sort of saying through you, Mr Mayor, like the other one's a soakage pit. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, that's right. The other one's a soakage pit, but it was actually discharged
Yeah.
into the soakage pit.
It was, and it's probably also that one there too. It comes back to the size of that one as well.
Yeah.
This one's is a lot bigger. And
But this, what I'm going to ask, this one here, what is it? Just where does it subsurface? But is it just from here to the wall, or is it?
I've got the designs there through you, Mr Mayor.
I don't
Pull that out. I can bring that in maybe over lunch to have a look at it there. But the problem with the
Good idea.
above surface one is at this stage it's probably not an option. The group had talked about there's some adjoining land there, about acquiring that, and that would have been really good for the irrigation, but we don't have that land at the moment. So
No,
the
I
option
understand
we've
that,
got
but I'm
is,
just
is subsurface there with the space they've got. So other ones we've done, I think at Injune there, it was just like that tape and irrigating bougainvilleas, I think, with that. But I'd have to get the plan and have a look at this.
that's
one,
just
councillor,
a little bit
yeah.
concerned. Subsurface irrigation, I don't like.
Could become a quagmire, you think?
Well, that could be. I mean, I don't know what's involved. Mr Mayor, can I move?
We got some more questions,
okay.
so do you mind just waiting
That's
till we
right,
get the
yeah.
questions? Okay.
No, you're right.
You're
It's
going to
later.
table.
Yeah.
I was going to ask later on table too, because I've got
Later in the meeting.
another question, but we'll give the officers time to get it. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask Manager Tanya. So we're taking this funding from the Roma pool refurbishment. I have a couple of questions. One of them is how does that affect that project? And how does it actually, if we leave pending pool upgrade timing in this resolution, how does that then affect this resolution?
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, how that's worded there, work order, the number, that's actually the title of the job. Refurbishment of change rooms to allow disabled access pending pool upgrade timing. I can probably see how that's a little bit confusing, but that's actually
Okay.
what that project is called in the budget.
Oh, so that's not pending. I was
No.
a bit like, what are we?
Yeah, I can see.
We're not
how
making sense there.
It does read. It's
Yeah.
a little bit confusing. The answer to your other question is we have not yet commenced on the Roma pool refurbishment of change rooms project because we're waiting for the master plan for the Roma pool to be finalised. So it had been one that has been sitting there while we've been looking after the other projects.
And were we planning on doing that project this year? Is that what we passed in the budget?
We had council had allocated the funds in the budget for it to happen this year, but it was pending the pool upgrade timing.
So I guess probably fair to say, Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, was that even if the money wasn't required for Wallumbilla, the project up here would have still been on hold, subject to the Roma pool consultation anyway. So.
And we're not going to affect that project. I understand about the bigger picture, but we're not going to affect that project if we take that money right now for our future year budgets, or will that project then come up again within our future year budgets?
At the moment, it hasn't been highlighted as being money given back to that project to deliver it in the next financial year, but that's something that I can raise. When this money, the 101,000 comes out of the Roma pool refurbishment project, there won't be enough funds there to deliver that project. So if that project was to be delivered in next financial year, additional funds would have to be allocated.
So you don't see a risk of us, there's sort of no risk of us taking that money and using that now. It's just that I noticed in a late report that there's probably some other funding also that might be coming available. So I was just wanting to make sure that we're...
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, in my recommendation, or our recommendation to take it out of that job, in all honesty, we looked at at this time of year, which projects we hadn't yet delivered and which we hadn't committed any funds against. So that's the reasoning for using that or recommending we take it from the Roma pool project, just simply because it's got the money there and we really would like to be able to move ahead with the Wallumbilla Showgrounds project.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Edwards.
So just on option one there, so I think I've worked it out anyway. So basically subsurface irrigation is synonymous with discharged on site. Is that they're exactly the same thing, aren't they? Because it's under the ground, it means it's discharged on site. That's what that means?
Correct, Councillor. They're both on site, just one's above ground, one's below ground.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, okay. No, that was all I wanted to know.
I did see Richard in there.
So my question, and I sort of get the feeling Councillor McMillan's going to lay it on the table, but my question is really, like, this is a huge blowout in funds for this project, and obviously it can be doing the project properly, but can we get some assurity that when we have, the radio and the events that happen like the show, is this going to cater for the whole lot, and we're never going to have to come back and revisit this when we have those huge peaks of people that use the facility, and they've had problems with the system, or do we actually even need to do more to make sure this handles all of the events plus the caravan park, whether they've done that, and do they understand, and then maybe once the decision's made, then we might be able to look at what the plumber thinks as well from that have to fix these things, whether they have some views on whether they think this is right, if you know what I mean.
So with the plumbers, Mr. Mayor, that's why we probably had to extend the period out, because the plumbers actually had a fair bit of input talking to
Yeah.
the suppliers on it, so
Yeah.
they were pretty comfortable with it. The design of it, just so we're clear, there's still two systems. So this is actually for the shower toilet block that was actually relocated from the Saleyards out to the site to service the caravan park area. And that was why it was probably designed when we got Brandon's to do the design on it for us. They've designed it based on a small caravan park to cater for all that. And obviously people are going to camp there for, as you said, the rodeo camp draft and that as well. So that's why it's been designed to a larger standard.
So that means it still doesn't fix the problem that we got down there with the showground issue.
No, the showground one there, the solution for that one is actually that second holding tank, which we thought we actually had access to, but that had to be returned, so.
Councillor McMahon.
Mr Mayor, I understand where you're coming from, the showground one's been a problem, but I believe when this toilet block's up and running, it'll take the pressure off even show day, camp draft day and everything, because everyone won't be heading to that one area. But those two toilet blocks that currently there are all into the one, like there's the older one to the east a bit, they're all into that one tank system. And another thing I was just going to ask, we did talk about it, the caravan dump point, will it be moved up to this new one? Which will take a lot of pressure, well.
That makes sense, so I'm not sure if it is, but that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it has been put up as a project for next year's budget, but whether or not it's going to be a priority, because there's quite a number of facilities projects there, so but it has actually been costed up and put forward as a project.
Just to shift it?
How much it was?
What's that, sorry?
Just to shift it?
Yes, it has been put up as a project.
So the question is it possible for later, could we find out how much a tank is, like the tank that you thought you had?
Yeah.
And whether it's a possibility of connecting that up at the same time?
Yeah.
It would be a much smaller project, but maybe they might look at doing that.
Yeah.
And also an extra dump point there, because it could be cheaper just to put a dump point at the other place and leave that if you don't want to shift it. But if we could find that, because then for the community, then that's a whole heap of better benefit, as the Deputy Mayor was saying, you know?
Two things, Mr Mayor, I'd like to, I asked a question about the, what do they call it, the subsurface irrigation. I'm not saying the facility won't be big enough, I'm just a bit concerned what might happen underground with that, you know, in years to come. And with the dump point, I believe we should be taking the old dump point and moving it up there, because we want to take the pressure off that small system at the hall. You know what I mean? I understand putting a second one in, but we want to be able to take the pressure off that.
The only thing why I was saying that, rather than have to take it up, and it might be really simple, sometimes it's easy just finding what's a new one worth and just putting one there, because I think they used to donate them or something.
Well, they used to be funded through the Caravan Association.
Yeah, but what I mean is a quick way of getting it up there. It might be the quickest way to shift it, but sometimes in this world, it's actually quicker to just get another one and maybe shut off the other one so there's no pressure on it, you know?
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Burkett.
Mayor, just to answer that, there's not much in them. They're prefab. They just sit on a bit of 100 mil pipe, so it's not a big.
No expensive.
Lift it up, cap it off. Yeah, it's not.
That's
not
why,
expensive.
all due respect to the manager Tanya, I couldn't, you know, why it had to go in the budget just to shift it, you know. I mean, I know it'll be a cost, but a couple $100 you'd do it for, I'd imagine. But anyway.
Yeah,
there's another
it has
story.
been.
Plumber quotes on it.
But is it possible if we get that information back about the tank that we thought we had and that? And
Mr Mayor, if it'd be helpful, Richard, who works as a project officer within the facilities team, I may be able to get him up to the meeting a bit later, and he'll be able to answer the questions like how many people did Brandon's design this system? What was this? He'll be able to talk to about how big the trench and that is that you know Councillor McMullen's asking about. He'll be able to answer a lot of those technical questions. Yeah.
And what about that tank? If we can get a price on that tank that you thought you had, and whether the plumber might think they could shift the dump point and that at the same time, or
I
it's
think
a separate project.
Yeah, it's a separate
not part
project.
of
We
the
can
tank,
do that.
but like you know, while they're there.
Yeah, and with that tank there, with that existing one there, was just a second holding tank was what we had in mind there for that to just to hold it back, and it allows actually the effluent then to soak away, and that would have worked quite well. But as Councillor McMullen said, with the second one up there, it'll actually just share the load between the two. It'll actually reduce the actual amount going through. Then if we can move that dump point up there, that'll actually reduce the load on that initial one as well a lot.
And is there no way, you're asking the plumber, is there not a slow transfer that could be done to the other one over time or something?
Probably when it was done, it just wasn't built to actually to handle those peak volumes, and that's the problem. Is it just it's actually just the sheer volume of it there. So what we've been doing, I don't believe we had an issue this year, and then last year the show was cancelled, obviously, but the year before that. We'd organised the truck just to pump out on the Thursday, and then it's pumping out again on the Saturday, and just to try and keep the volume out of that tank. That's why we thought with that second tank it'll improve the situation there. But as Tanya said, Richard's actually up in the office here. We can get him to come in and talk about that subsurface one.
Mr Mayor, the tank you're referring to, was that an additional tank just for storage, like we sort of talked about at the other one?
Holding it,
Yeah.
Councillor,
Yeah.
and you're part of that.
Yeah, I know.
You'll recall that one, yeah.
That was a big one, that one.
Yeah.
Just a question, Matt.
Yeah.
When you put a house in, are you talking about the same sort of a pit that goes, with all the gravel and the overlay and all that sort of stuff? Is that what we've got?
No,
here, or-
Councillor, that's why I probably need Richard to come in, because I haven't got the
right.
plans here, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think yes.
Yeah, they're about 15, 20 grand or something to put one of them in.
No, that's
Domestic ones are, and
That's the pit.
and that's exactly the point, because I said the tank's about 15 and the trench is about 15. So the 15 and 15 was the 30, which was the original budget. So this is obviously a commercial grade one. So
Righto. So, Councillor McMullen.
I was move we lay it on the table till later in the meeting for more information.
Okay, all those in favour? 9-0. We might break for morning tea. Back in half an hour.
Resume the meeting. So the next one is L5, refresher training course for councillors. Any questions or anything? Anyone wish to move?
I'll be happy to move, but I have a question first, through you,
Yeah.
Acting Chair. Well, we've had these over the years. Why are they coming to council to decide whether we take the department up on the offer? I thought it would have just been scheduled into a briefing session of council.
Do you want to answer that, Mr Mayor?
Oh, he's here. Okay. He's here, okay.
Which one?
Okay, page 79. I would just believe that this, what was your question, Councillor O'Neill?
Well, we've had these every year that you've been on council, every year that I've been on council, and we've just done them. Why is it suddenly coming to council at a general meeting?
I don't think it's a big issue. I think we can just approve it.
I'm not suggesting it is a big issue, Mayor. I'm simply asking, why is it now coming to council for a decision?
I believe that, I've asked that I believe that the training could be done by local government department or LGAQ, and this probably is part of that. So, so do we have a...
Yes, I've indicated I'm going to move, but still, this is being done by the department. It's clear in the report it's being done by the department, as I've done every year. I don't understand why it's coming to council to approve that we do it.
I don't have an issue with it. Let's test it. If you want to remove it from the agenda, move a motion, and let's see if it's successful.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm happy
Well, I think
to
I've
move.
answered it as much as that I've explained that I've asked for that. I don't mind the report coming to council, and
Sorry, I think Mayor, if I can, are you answering it by saying you've directed the CEO that this comes to council? Is that what you've
I
done?
don't remember saying that, but I do remember saying that I would like the training to happen from either LGAQ or Department of Local Government.
I'll move that one, councillors participate in the refresher training on the morning of Wednesday, the 18th of August 2021. 2, any additional topics, matters councillors like included in the training be provided by the 30th of July 2021.
Okay, and I'll second that. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. L6, unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road. I move that this
Hang on,
lot.
Mr. Mayor.
I got it.
I got it.
I, Councillor Ladbrook, I have a relationship with, well, the description is L6. The item number is L6. The description, unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road. I, Councillor Ladbrook, relationship because we're a related party. Participants in the interest. I am related to the people involved in this matter. And the type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, and the action I will take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Okay, thank you. I move that we lay this on the table till later in the meeting. All those in favour?
Can I ask why, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
Just so I know.
For in connection with, I believe we will have more information. So we'll go to the vote. All those in
Mr.
favour?
Mayor, more information with the other one that's enclosed.
Yeah.
It's another one enclosed to do with the same thing, so we've been asked to,
Are we going to put them together?
No, just lay this on
on
the
the
table
table
and
till
we'll
we
be dealing
discuss
with
the
them
other one first, that's what.
separately. Did you have any comment?
No, just man, just maybe LC3 has some information that I'd recommend council consider first before
Yep.
Yeah, all those, we'll do that vote again because not everyone voted. All those in favour? Okay, 8-0.
Mr. Mayor, can I suggest the officers sitting outside to go back to whatever the one was about the Wallumbilla sewage? Is he just sitting there waiting for us, or?
Change the order.
We've got one more to go on the late items.
Right. No, that's all right. He's yeah.
So L7, closure of library services for staff to attend training in 2021. So just a little bit of explanation on this. Is this just mainly the dates?
No, that's right, Councillor. That's all it is, Mr. Mayor. It's a change in date for that first date. Council resolved to close it on the 17th of June and Thursday, 2nd of December. But it's actually now going to be 17th. The June has been rescheduled to 26th of July. So it's just a change in date. That's all, Mr. Mayor. So.
And this is the one that there will be a policy developed because it's operational.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council rescind resolution number OM/04.2021/56 stating that 1, council endorse the closure of council library services to allow all staff to attend staff training workshops on Thursday the 17th of June and Thursday the 2nd of December 2021. 2, a policy be developed. 2, then the recommendation being that council endorse the closure of council library services to allow all staff to attend staff training workshops on Monday the 26th of July and Thursday the 2nd of December 2021, and 2, a policy be developed.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, did you want to go back to, what was that item number?
L4, page 72. Mr Mayor, I've got a conflict which I didn't realise earlier, and I spoke to the CEO before morning tea, so I've got to declare a conflict.
Well, I'll just read that out and then you can do that. L4, request for update, Wallumbilla Showgrounds, ablution septic. Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, Kel, sorry, if you even go to Council Ladbrokes, because it's pretty mirrors that one, I did send an email. Oh, well, yeah. I apologise for this, but
Councillors, everyone?
oh, I just, yeah, oh, sorry.
I'm just doing a conflict of interest.
sorry.
And then we'll be right.
Item number L4, description, request for update of Wallumbilla Showgrounds ablution septic. The relationship, person with interest is myself. The particular, I've got a related party with, who works for one of the contractors that's listed in the report. I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Declarable.
Oh, it's a declarable conflict of interest. And I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Or prescribed, I don't know.
What is the name?
Oh, sorry, Roma Plumbing.
The name of a related
Oh,
party?
Thomas.
Thank you.
Kennedy.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
It's a very small little area, really, isn't it? To try and fit in everything that they want to fit in. Just had a window, very small little area to fit everything that they want to fit in.
There's not much room to go any further.
There's nothing, because there's your boundary. Maybe down the track, then when that lease is no longer. Remember we voted against, they wanted to freehold it and buy it? So maybe down the track, they'll spread that way.
Yeah, I do too, because I actually don't know if it's in there.
Okay, so request for update Wallumbilla Showgrounds ablution septic. To the director, just over to you.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think everyone's probably met Richard Irwin. So,
Councillors, Mr Mayor.
so Richard, the question was, councillors there, obviously, there's two types of design there for the effluent disposal there, above ground and below ground. The question was obviously, just want to know, will it handle the caravan park? And secondly, just probably what the design of that difference between the above ground and below ground is, and how many would handle.
So it was designed based on historical data from the Wallumbilla Show Society, showing there's approximately 25 vans maximum there. So they had a study was done 2012, I believe. They kept count of who was there and who wasn't. And when we approached Brandon's to design it, they designed it for 35 caravans, which works out to be 123 equivalent persons. So, and that's based on a litre per day, basically, that they would use. And this system will handle that per day, every day of the year for 123 people. It's a treatment plant, so similar to an EnviroCycle or an Aussie Clean that you'd have in your backyard, but beefed up and a much larger capacity, and it gets pumped out underground through a ribbon or a soft pipe that gets laid. The surface gets prepared, gets rotary hoed. The pipe gets laid 6 inches under the ground. It gets covered back over, and plantings put on it to help transpire and evaporate the effluent. Well, it's not even effluent, it's treated. By the time it gets there, it's crystal clear and treated with chlorine. By the time, there's no solids get pumped through the system to clog it up.
The other question, mate, was probably can they actually irrigate above ground with it if
It can be.
if other land becomes available as well?
Yeah, if the land becomes available, or if we can reach some sort of an agreement with the land user at the moment, or the lease, the gentleman that holds the lease, we can pump, because it's treated, we can pump it off site. That's, if it wasn't treated, if it was just an old-fashioned septic, we couldn't remove it from site. But because it's treated, we can use it to irrigate, and that'll get rid of it a hell of a lot quicker and a hell of a lot cheaper. It's a matter of, it's as simple as putting sprinklers in and letting it go, and it'll either evaporate. If it grows grass, the grass can be grazed so long as it's dry. So we put it into 2 different paddocks, and when I say paddocks, it's only, it'll be just over an acre, so half an acre each, and that's what it maintains itself. You let the cattle on it, eat it back down, start irrigating on it. That's if we can get the land, or if we can come to an agreement with the landowner.
So if you do go to a subsurface though, if we do get land available, we can actually go above ground with it too. It's a matter of actually just pipe work.
The logistics of putting it above ground on the showgrounds itself,
Sorry, I meant
can't happen.
No, I meant with the neighbouring land. If we go, because we haven't got that land at the moment.
Yeah.
We had a discussion before, if we go at subsurface
Yeah.
at the moment, but in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, if that land became available, we had that option to actually doing that as well.
Quite easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can quite easily be diverted and down to this. So the design that Brandon's come up with had all the disposal area all in the one place, and it took up quite a lot of the caravan parking. Essentially, it became a system designed to handle 35 caravans. We had no more room to park 35 caravans there. So we broke it up into the second colour drawing into 6 dispersal sites distributed around the area that the caravans get used. And that would be a planted screen, basically, for the caravan park. So you'd have some, well, maybe not grevilleas, but there's a list of plants we can plant in there that would flower, look green, and provide a screen from the rest of the showgrounds, and at the same time get rid of our treated water. They would get fenced off and planted out so that people can't drive through them and walk through them. Or you could walk through them, but there would be a fence there to stop you doing it. That's all below. That's the subsurface option. So the plantings get planted on that, and that contains it within the showgrounds and gets rid of it there. It indexes around, it'll irrigate into zone 1, and when it's metered an amount of water that's predetermined into that zone, it'll automatically click over to zone 2, and then around to zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, so forth, until it gets back to 1 again, and in that time, zone 1 will have got rid of whatever water was put into it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just ask Richard a question. Had a good talk before. Zone 5 there, it looks on the plan there's still plenty of room to get the road trains past there through into that next neighbouring paddock.
Yeah, we kept it off the road so
Yeah.
they can go out and turn around in the neighbouring
I mean, it
paddock.
looks like that, but. I
Yeah,
just was wondering
that's
whether
correct.
The fence is not gonna be out too far.
No, that's the idea of it. We'll make sure it's like that. That's not the final place. That's
No.
just indicative. We'll make sure there's enough room.
Thank you.
And sorry, Richard, I know you said the number of vans. How many equivalent person EP is it? How many people?
123 EP. So they worked out on, I think, roughly 3.5 people per caravan. And that is every day of the year.
Yeah.
That's so.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Have these plans been shown to the users of the Wallumbilla?
Yes,
Even there's section 1, 2, 3 and 4 that's going to be
That's-
fenced off, because I'm just thinking
that's
campgrounds
right.
parking and wanting to still get through to ride their horses around that sort of
That's
stuff.
correct. Fiona, Vincent, and myself had a meeting with all the user groups there on site in April, I believe it was.
Yep.
And this plan was showed to them, and at the time, we floated the idea with them of possibly using the paddock next door, and that's how we ended up going down. That was their preferred option, but if they had to go back to this, it's sort of like, it was, well, if that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. There's,
And they realised that would be fenced off.
yeah, that you couldn't drive through it. Yeah,
Or even
they were garden.
Or even walk through it, you know.
So I explained it to them, they were garden beds. We can leave gaps or spaces in between as a thoroughfare, and the fencing it can be no more, it doesn't have to be any more than a rope between two posts.
Those gaps might be a good idea. I just know that sometimes there's issues when they've got prams and they're trying to, and you have to walk right around.
Right
the
around,
cane,
no.
You know, because a lot of other people duck under fences and that, but you've got prams and that, so maybe a few gaps would help with that.
Certainly be considered in the final design.
So the presidents of these user groups haven't actually seen this photo, but have they?
The green one,
Yeah.
they've seen something very similar. Would have been blue, possibly.
Because, yeah, I think that's crucial that we get them to sign off on this. But no reason why we couldn't do it, subject to that. The other question I had that I asked about was the price of a tank and whether, as a separate job, but it could be done at the same time, could we get that overflow tank that we talked about?
This is for the other treatment plant that's already existing on site, back down behind the canteen there. The existing one there, just,
Yep.
that soakage pit there has, if it has too much through it, it could overflow, so they're putting a second holding tank to slow the rate down through there.
So what we did in Injune was we put an old-fashioned style bed in where we excavated and put it in, and then it had the ability to overflow into a tank. So on a rodeo or a big event, if it was to overflow the transpiration bed, it would so it'd be treated. It'd go through the septic first, then the transpiration bed, and once it reaches a certain level there, it would run into a catchment tank after that. So that's well and truly possible to be done in Wallumbilla. It's something that could be looked at, definitely.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Richard, in Injune, there's been two big tanks there for a long time you're talking about the radio grounds. So the second one there is used for the overflow, or is that the third one?
That's
No,
correct.
the second one, yeah.
So recently we had West Wet go up there and put the transpiration bed in, and the secondary tank, which was a holding tank, which quite often overflowed,
Yeah.
we replumbed and had it so it now pumps up to the bed, and when the bed overflows, it comes
Comes
down
back
to
into the
that
tank.
existing tank. They're downhill gravity fed.
So in Wallumbilla at the old site, the original site, by the sound probably wouldn't be hard. That's what you're talking about, Mr Mayor, putting a tank in the ground there,
That
should
would-
it get to that situation.
I think that would be a better option than one pre the system,
Yeah, like,
because you could try and organise something to gravity feed if we got the room. Not quite sure, but it'll be certainly easier to pump than pumping solids and liquid.
Because the history is that, unfortunately, the people down there have dealt with sort of rural sewage overflowing, and it's happened on multiple occasions, so I believe the community would like us to see that we fix it. So would you have an estimate of what it would cost to put a tank in? Obviously, it'd be subject to you having a look in that.
I would have to have a look and get some proper pricing, not off the top of my head,
And just
Mr Mayor.
through you, Mr Mayor, Manager Tanya pulled me up outside with Richard. We can't put a dump point on this new system because we can't use the chemicals that are used in the portable loos can't have the chemicals that are used in the portable loos going into this system. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Yeah.
Councillor.
Why is that?
It's a treatment plant, so this is an on-site treatment plant that we're putting in, and the chemicals that quite often come out of the caravans and the mobile homes will just kill the bacteria that help process the waste. So, yeah, we don't pump solids out of this system. It's chlorinated water. So if we do that, we'll clog our system.
So could you have a transfer pump that would actually send to the new system? Obviously, we may never have 35 there, so is there any way that this system could slowly process over time, or do you think that the extra tank would be the best thing to deal with? Because we'll spend all this money and we've solved one problem, which the community want us to do, but we haven't solved the other one.
No, I don't think that the system will remove those chemicals out of it. I think they'll still affect the bacteria. But in saying that, if we went the sprinkler option in the paddock next door, say, there's no reason why the existing system that we have could not be upgraded and dispose of that treated effluent over there at a future date. Like, that's something we could look to in the future.
With this system?
No, it'd have to be upgraded. We cannot go through this system that we're putting in now. In the design, it talks that it's solely and wholly designed to handle what it's doing now. They're not. It's designed for 35 caravans. Yes, we know that there'll be overflow or extra use on that during the shows and camp draft and everything else. But it actually states it in the report. There's 91 pages in it. It states it's not to be linked and that the dump point's not to be plumbed into it because it will just wreck our infrastructure.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it mightn't be for today, but probably we should look at an extra tank for the old system, done in a fashion that you're talking about to collect the overflow should the soakage pit fail, or not fail, but fill up and in that way, because we always, we haven't advertised it, but we're so close to the creek there, if we get a spillage.
That's right. Part of the design of this system, the engineer looked at the old system, and his findings were that it's gravely undersized, and that he had worries for it himself. So we could look at upgrading it, I think. This system will take some of that load on those big days off it, so hopefully we can.
Right, any other questions? Do we have anyone that would like to move?
I moved it
Oh,
earlier.
that's right, you did too. So do we have a seconder? Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I just have a question, Mr Mayor,
Please
just
go ahead.
with the recommendation and from what we just discussed. Councillor Guthrie, do you think we need to be putting another point in there about looking at the other, the system to either upgrade or solve that problem for the community, just so that the community can see that we haven't forgotten that there's another issue there? So
Good point.
I just wonder.
Good point, and I'd
The
like to be
extra tank.
guided by, if possible, through the mayor. Richard, if you're able to actually it will provide maybe some suggested wording to assist and put a number 4 that says with a long-term
Look-
intention or a long-term,
Or just a report be brought
a
back?
report
Just
be brought
something
back
to-
with
to-
regard to,
A report to be brought back, something to generate that it can come back is what I'm,
so suggesting that
Suggesting.
down the track, there's another stage to this for, an unspecified time, but with the intention that we could be looking at it.
just a report to be
Provide
brought
a
back.
further report to,
In
up
regards
to upgrade the existing system.
Yeah,
That's pretty,
I
Is that
think,
what you've said?
I think so, yeah,
that
that's,
takes.
yeah, if we bring one back, yeah, I think that, to upgrade the existing system.
And you have a talk to Graham, Sweet Love and those guys, they weren't involved in the original design of that one, but he'd be able to, give some input in there too, with
Yep.
that second tank.
Happy, yeah, happy to.
Well, to the mover, I think it needs to be urgently bring a report back to council, because this problem has been going on and it's not being solved with this. This will solve another issue, which is a big issue, but I think we need an urgent, with this overflow tank that's talked about, we need that urgently to come back to council to see if we can solve it.
Just a further comment, it was the discussions at the Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group were very, very active. And I think that their perception is that the whole system, the whole of the grounds will be, will be catered for. Ideally, it would be great if we could then be doing all of this at the same time, if it was more cost effective. But I am mindful that as you've said, you need to get costings and all those sorts of things. But I do think it would be better to be more urgent than long-term, because I think you're getting an actual facility upgraded to a standard that the community actually would be very keen to do. Yeah,
So,
and particularly if it's cost effective.
so if the mover is happy, that point as a priority, report upgrading the system, can we keep it to a tank so we don't get a report back on a whole new system, which we would have to really fund? Because
I think we need a bare minimum, to be honest, and I've just listened to what you've said, Richard. I'm sure in your head you're already thinking in terms of the possibilities. I think we just need to have something that then addresses the other amenities that are there, so that we don't have the what they've been aware that happens is that the material, the sludgy material, is actually then on the ground.
That's
It
right.
becomes pretty
So-
yucky, to be honest.
As a priority, we get some pricing on doing the tank, which is a fairly easy fix. It's dig a hole, put the tank in there and get the stuff to it, and then have a look at upgrading the entire system, and let's just say make it compliant.
Yep.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I take it, Richard, if you put the overflow type tank in that we're referring to, that would wouldn't be compliant, but probably, but make it more safe, I suppose.
Definitely safer.
A safety
It's-
barrier.
I would, it's a stopgap measure, but it will stop it running everywhere else. If we plumb it right and get it to go to there, that's fine. It's a complicated system at the moment. There's storage tanks and pumps, and then eventually it finds its way to the transpiration bed. And if anything goes wrong anywhere along the line, we get a leak, and that's when we get crucified. So if we can look,
Simplify it.
sorry,
Simplify it.
simplify it,
Simple.
yeah,
Yeah.
and capture the overflows and look at upgrading the system. It may even be cheaper to disregard that system and put it somewhere else, but we'll have to get Brandon's or someone else, a designer, to have a look. Graham will have a look at it first, and then move on from there.
This mightn't have anything to do with it, Richard, but what happens to grey water and stuff down there? Is that an issue?
That's what we're referring to.
Oh, you're referring to the
It all
grey
goes into the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Does
Yeah.
it all go into the one tank?
It all goes into the
Okay.
one.
Well, normally, these days you've got to have separate ones, don't you?
No,
Or you don't have to
none
have
of the
separate
new
ones?
stuff, it all goes into one, these new flash plants.
Oh. Okay.
My understanding.
Yes, that's
it all
correct,
goes-
Your
yeah.
solids settle out your primary tank, Mr Mayor, it comes in, goes in your primary tank, your solids settle out to the bottom, which you then pump out later on, get taken away, and then you basically, your liquid, it gets treated and comes out, but
The one that I was referring to
Grey waters.
had the septic, and then it had the grey water tank, so you had to pump the grey water tank out onto your garden.
yeah,
There's
it's all
What's it
classed
called,
as-
the blue hose or something, or the green hose?
classed
Or?
as effluent.
Yeah, nowadays it is. It's
That's
classed.
the,
classed
that's the
as
one.
It
that's
has
in
to
there.
be all treated as effluent.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Righto.
grey water goes in there too.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, can I just commend Richard for simplifying a, I'm sure, very, very complex system down to many of us who have got very little plumbing. I'm sure that, no, Burko's nodding.
Thank you, happy to do it.
But you've actually made it very clear conceptually to get our head around what we're actually dealing with and
What
what
you're
the
looking
solution,
at.
what
It-
we need to be making
It was
decisions
big,
on.
and comments were made from the contractors that quoted on this that, why did you send me 91 pages? It was big, yeah.
So to the mover, would the mover be happy if we actually put in there to, as a priority, I think it should be urgent report be brought back about upgrading the overflow, an overflow tank for the system, because I think if we go for a whole new system, it's much longer and it needs solving, so we can, however the officers come back and do it, we need an overflow tank because we've had basically raw sewage coming out down there. So we need an urgent option, and obviously probably needs to be affordable in our budget, which a tank or of some type.
If I could just paraphrase what the community are saying down there, they really want an immediate solution to be able, that they're not walking on wet, they're not underfoot with some pretty unpleasant moisture. So I think that would be a really, really, they would be very keen for that as an option, an urgent option.
Overflow tank. Is the mover happy with that?
Yeah, I am.
Mr Mayor, as a seconder, can I just ask Richard, how much time would you need? Like, we can call it urgent, but
How much time do you get some pricing on
yeah.
a tank? A week.
Oh,
Get the design done.
Yeah, we can get a design done and get some pricing within a week. Or not the design, sorry, I can get some pricing.
Yeah.
And there's not a great deal of design in an overflow tank.
So you just put a pipe into the pit, do you? So that
It-
when it gets to that level, it runs out. And
Pretty
stuff like
much
that.
that simple.
Yeah. No worries. I'm happy with that if everyone else is then.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
Can I just make another suggestion? I think it might be just along the lines of what Councillor Hancock said, maybe that we have 4 as the priority to provide an urgent report to install an overflow tank, and maybe number 5 was long-term to seek further report to the upgrading of the existing system, because you may find that once you've done that additional tank, that everything's working really, really well and we really don't need it. But I mean, that might be something you could provide further information on down the track. But I think the solution is the overflow tank, and then see how it all works, and then it may be that that's suitable.
So the overflow tank will certainly go a long way to making it a less visible problem, so to speak, but it will need upgrading, yes.
So one's short term and one's in the longer term. So we're not specifying in 6 months, but we're saying we're doing this as an urgent fix to the situation that they've got down there. But down the track, we know that there will be further remediation works required.
Yep.
And can, is it possible if there is such a thing as a warning system where, you know, it can be like the SCADA or any of those put on it, so if it does overflow, the staff get to know about it, so when you come back with it, even just a tank level, because sometimes people don't know about it till the volunteers tell council about it, you know?
That's possible to put a warning light on the tank. I'm not sure about the transpiration bed itself.
Just something to actually advise the staff, we better go and pump it out, because we're knowing about it before the volunteers know about it.
That's right.
Because we've spent a lot of money on SCADA for different things, maybe there is something we could put on it, because it's been a continuous problem.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think the tank will be a lot better because, as Director Rob said earlier, 2 years ago, when it was, council went down and pumped the tanks out prior to the show. They went back on the Saturday. Well, yes, they did pump it out, but probably could have got away with not doing it, but you couldn't take the risk, you know. So by having an extra tank at the end of the pit, it'll give you a bit more of a buffer of time if it start, you know, if your alarm was halfway up, started to get halfway up, well then you...
You're right, Councillor, because it was probably 2.5 years ago when we had that problem with it.
Yeah, we
probably
probably
last time we had it, but it's probably
Not the
been-
last show they had, which was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not this one, not last year was COVID, but
The one before.
one
council.
before, I think
About
it,
2.5 years.
Yeah.
ago. And that was probably the last time we had an issue there with it, because as you said, councillor, it was,
yeah.
so the following one we had it pumped out there, and effectively that's what that second tank's gonna do, it's gonna take.
Take that
volume,
extra
so,
overflow.
So yeah, I'm happy with the wording in the resolution there, Mr Mayor, that'll cover that. But it'll work the same way as that, it's just the extra capacity to hold it back.
And that extra tank, if it was put in, and it was the show or the camp draft that filled it, or put water into it, fluid into it, it probably could be over the next 3 weeks pumped back through the system instead of paying a truck to soak back through, you know, rather than pay a couple of $1,000 or whatever it was to get a truck to go down and pump her.
Righto, so the mover, I think you've spoken to it. Does anyone in opposition to the motion, does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, just say that, you know, I think this is a great outcome for the Wallumbilla Town improvement, the whole town of Wallumbilla, but it was actually brought up at the Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group meeting as a matter of urgency. And so I actually think this is a great outcome for the community.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'd just like to say, I'm really focused on point 5 and getting that, or point 4 I should say, to get the overflow tank, because that's been an historical problem. And I do believe it's actually happened reasonably, not yesterday, but it has happened at another time. So it kept coming back up in my time as mayor, and I believe we need an urgent fix for that overflow tank, so we don't have this, and hopefully an early warning system as well. So I'm certainly in support of both things in this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
I just think it's a great outcome, and I know that the people in Wallumbilla will be very, very excited and very pleased that they've actually been heard, and that we've then been able to move something forward that they will be able to appreciate.
Okay, well, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Robbie, was Danielle outside? I saw her here before. Because that's one we're laying on the table, isn't it? That it,
Which one did we do on the tail?
That was the Humphreys Road, is that right?
We've got to do that, we'll load on it first, don't we?
Yeah, there was no others.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I
You'd
can
know, his sister Janie worked, his sister Jane worked in Woolies for a long time.
Okay.
You could have gone and got your needle, Burko.
Right, is there anything else before we go into closed?
We've done it all right, haven't we?
We've got one load on the tub, which is that.
Just
Go
the,
back to-
Oh, yeah.
Do anyone want to close?
I'll get the bit of paper. Mr Mayor, I'll move that in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a local government may resolve to close a meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors or members consider it is necessary to close the meeting. Now we've got the list is...
Sorry, Cal, just Councillor McMullen has to read out the second bit as well.
Oh, that's right, yeah. The matters to be, in accordance with the section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. So we've got agenda items C1, Roma and Injune Aerodrome Compliance Inspection Reports, LC1, Roma Saleyards Fees and Charges 2021-22, LC2, Application for Rating Concessions. Do I need to read all those numbers out?
As listed.
As listed. LC3, Request for Internal Review of Unnamed Section of Road of Humphreys Road. LC4, Roma Flood Mitigation Project Stage 2, Request for Extension of Time for Project Completion. LC5 Maintenance Performance Contract 2021-2022. LC6 Roma Hospital Student Accommodation Precinct. LC7 Function Reports Waste Laboratory Airport Quarry Saleyards. LC8 Additional Rate Modelling for Draft Budget. That must be it. All done.
Mr Mayor, were there any conflicts to declare before you voted on going into close? Any of the councillors?
Oh, did we get that advice back about the Saleyards?
We did.
Are we in close now, or
No, we're not.
We're not.
can we adjourn to receive that advice, Mr Mayor?
Well, we can, yeah. Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting. We'll keep going.
And they still haven't solved it.
Righto, so we just want to take that one off the agenda, that we're not going into
Where
close.
are we at?
Well, this was done about what we're putting into confidential, weren't we? So we
No.
won't put that.
We're talking about conflict.
Do my conflicts first. Is there any
Before we
other
go out.
conflicts?
You haven't voted to go into closed.
No.
So perhaps if we go back to the schedule, Cal.
No, not yet, we're adjourned.
Oh, that's right.
There's one.
You gotta-
So LC1, are we happy to remove that from today's schedule? Have we voted on that yet?
No, so
We
No.
will allow them to
Okay, so
take.
We haven't done anything, no.
you were the mover, councillor McMullen. weren't
Which
you?
one?
About the going into
Going into
closed.
closed, this one.
Going into close.
Oh, okay,
You
yeah.
read all that out.
So if you're happy to remove that item from,
you have to do that once the meeting's
We still,
adjourned.
we've got to open the meeting
Said we
again.
kept going.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I didn't.
So
hear
what have we got to do now? We've got to remove LC1, is that what?
Are we removing it or just laying it on the table to a further meeting?
well, this is the resolution to go into closed and stating what we were going what we were going to discuss, and I think council's intention is that that one won't be discussed.
Discuss, but when we
Discuss.
get into, when we're doing it in the open, we can lay it on the table if we need to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it was just up to councillor McMullen whether you're happy to remove that from your initial motion,
So you want to remove that now, do we? Okay, I'm quite happy to remove it then, yeah.
just so the community doesn't
Yeah.
think that we're discussing that in closed.
And did we have a seconder?
So did you want to just say you're going to remove what item number? in
Remove
there?
item LC1, Roma Saleyards fees and charges 2021-22.
Righto. And can we just all have a look at that screen again, please? So C1's in there. And when you're ready, Kel.
So from the top there.
Yep. Thank you. And just scroll down.
I'm wondering, sorry, just the previous page, Kelly, please. I'm wondering, therefore, no, sorry, only the previous page. No, sorry, keep going up. No, down,
That's the
sorry.
next, that's previous, you mean the next page?
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, so in LC7, we had thought about covering the Saleyards. We might remove that from today's,
Remove the
if you're
Saleyards
happy
from
with that,
LC7, yeah, I'm
councillor
happy with that.
McMullen.
Remove Saleyards from LC7.
Yeah. Because the two sort of go together.
Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
Saleyards. yeah.
And also, through you, Mr Mayor, Madam CEO, just on the function reports, it's got waste, laboratory, airport, quarry, but hasn't got facilities, but over here we've got facilities, so are we doing facilities?
Yes,
This motion, is this just to remove these or to remove it and go into closed?
It's to go into closed,
Closed
but
with
we need to
exclusion of it,
provide
no?
an overview
Yeah.
of what will be
That's fine, yeah.
discussed when we're in closed. So that's what
Yeah.
this is, yeah.
Right, anything else after LC7, Cal?
Well, we've still got to do, have we done all our declarations?
I've got another one.
Yeah, that's, before we go into closed.
LC3.
So do you have another declaration, councillor Ladbroke?
Yeah,
He's got a list of them.
Same as, same issue with Humphreys Road, mate, or Mayor.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's there.
Right, well, we can just,
You spread that one out before.
Yeah, that was for LC3, but there's.
Different items, so just a bit
This is
of
also-
clarity.
There's
Oh, yeah, because we got out
L6.
C1, yeah.
So we just need the name of the related party.
The item number is LC3. Request, the description is request for unnamed road off Humphreys Road. I, councillor Ladbroke. The related party, I am related to the people involved in this matter. And I will leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
okay.
So do we
Right.
actually need the name of the people in
We've
the
got enough
complaint?
room up there to write them.
LC3,
The related
Um,
party.
do you want the names?
It's all in here.
Yeah, I know them off by heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
But what did you do in the last one?
I didn't read their names out. I just said they were related.
No, but that was an open agenda.
yeah,
Yeah,
Do I
read
need to
correct.
Yeah.
be Mark Humphreys, Jimmy Humphreys and Kenneth Humphreys are the related parties.
What about the daughter-in-law? She's in one of them. Emma.
Emma was listed.
She's listed somewhere.
She wrote the email.
There's another one too.
Yeah, Emma Humphreys.
Emma.
Okay, Yuleba Humphreys.
If,
She wouldn't be in those properties, eh?
if the declarable conflict of interest arises because of the council's relationship with a related party, the name of the related party, the nature of the relationship of the related party to the councillor, the nature of the related party's interest in the matter.
See,
28.
down the back second page, you've got Mr. Darren Humphreys and his wife Emma Humphreys.
Where's that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so Mr. Darren Humphreys and his wife Emma Humphreys, son of Jim.
Who is Mark Humphreys?
Sorry?
Darren Humphreys.
Relationship is.
No, he's got, they're all brother-in-laws, and no, well, not all.
And nephews.
Nephews.
And nephews' wives.
Nephew's wives.
Brother-in-law or?
The first,
Just let councillor Ladbroke answer that.
The three brothers-in-laws are Mark, Jimmy, and Ken would be nephew, well, my wife's nephew. And then, who'd we say the other one?
Brent, Darren and Emma.
Darren and Emma are my wife's nephew and his wife.
And Emma.
I don't think there's any more.
Righto. Okay, so we've got that. Any other declarations? before we go into closed? Righto, so we've got a mover. Do we have a seconder for who moved into, no? Does anyone want a second going into closed? Councillor Burkett? Any opposition? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. C1, Roma, Injune, Aerodrome Compliance Inspection Reports. Councillor O'Neill.
I move the council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Moving on to the late
Confidential.
confidential. LC1 is on the table.
I'll move that LC1 lay on the table till a future meeting of council.
Yeah.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. LC2, application for rating concession assessments 1301 3024, 1301332, 1201102, 1313099, 1301308, 1201390, 130149196, and 130146162, 1450798, and 150140887. I'd like to move that this lay on the table to get further information in regards to legal advice from Hopwood Gammon about some of the issues raised in this report and advice on that. Okay, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour,
I had a question. I just had a question, Mr. Mayor.
please go ahead.
Who is it, who did you say we're getting
Hopwood
advice
Gammon?
from? Are they on our preferred
Yeah, they are, and
suppliers?
we've used them before. Yep. So, all those in favour?
Need a seconder.
No, this is laying on the table.
Oh,
All those in favour? All those against? It's carried 5-4 if I can call for a division. Okay, so moving on to LC3.
You got to pack your bags. We're in the right order here, aren't we, that we discussed? Yeah, that's right.
LC3, request for an internal review unnamed section of road of Humphreys Road. Councillor McMullen.
Now I'll move that council receive and note the officer's report as presented. Is that correct? I get it right?
Yep. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to
60.
we'll just wait for
Was he out there, Ken?
Why don't we just deal with the other one while he's there?
I suppose we could do that, couldn't we?
Can do that, Mr Mayor.
That's in,
Too hard, Phil?
no, that's in the L,
L6.
leave him L6.
Keep him out there, big stick.
okay, L6. Notice of repeal or amendment of resolution, item number L6. Subject heading is unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road. We have a mover. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council rescind resolution number 0M-09.2020-93 and replace with, on the wrong.
So do we need to read out?
I've got to read
CEO?
this out up here, is that correct?
CEO, do we need to read this out?
Sorry?
It's in open.
No, it's up to the mayor as chairman.
Which one? Well, we're not going to replace it with that one
And
there.
it's in open, so everyone can read that. It's not a closed report.
Resolution OM-09202093 is not listed in this report. The one we're rescinding, is that correct?
Well, this is an open report and it's sitting here so everyone can see it
Yeah, I know,
online.
Mr Mayor, but that's, the one I just rescinded is not listed, so I go up to here now.
Yes.
The new one.
That's am I right?
Yeah.
And replace with this
Yeah.
one up here.
Yeah.
And replace it with,
Yes.
That one there.
What you're about to read out.
yeah.
So, Deputy Director, you happy with that as far as
That,
the order?
that council resolves, one, to confirm resolution 0M-05.2020-55, that the request for a permit to occupy the unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road, adjacent to lot 11 on WAL 533496 is not supported. Two, to confirm that the unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road between the end of Humphreys Road and Brookfield Road be added to the council road register and classified as rural access secondary. 3, to undertake the fencing of the northern boundary of the unnamed section of road off Humphreys Road, where the road abuts lot 11 on WAL 53496 to the extent that lot 11 is not currently fenced, subject to council entering into a written agreement within 14 days with the licence holder for the licences for gate number 535 and gate number 536, which are acceptable to council, including arrangements about C, the cancellation of each of the licence of gate number 535 and the licence for gate number 536, and D, contributions toward the cost of undertaking the fencing. 4, to communicate the outcome of the internal review via elected members after the meeting, if possible, and subsequently by correspondence. I think
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
that was a mouthful.
Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
I'd just like to say, Mr Mayor, I'll be pleased when it's all over.
Okay. Yeah, does anyone else wish to speak? I'd just like to say, you know, as in this position, we have to make difficult decisions, and I believe that trying to make a decision in the best interest of obviously residents and the local government area is what I believe we're trying to do here today, and that's why I'll be supporting this motion. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That's 6-2. If I can call for a division, please.
It's up to the
L2. We got an officer here for this one.
Got to be in L2, is it?
Oh, is that me?
That's you.
Sorry.
Didn't we just consolidate that on the top?
Is it? That's
Oh,
what
no,
it is?
L2, I'm thinking L16, sorry.
Is that what we do? L2?
L2?
Page 13.
Did you get to declare it, but
I did declare,
you did
yeah,
declare.
earlier, yeah.
seemed like a long time.
You're right,
ago.
doing L2? Yep.
Tidy up the late items, councillors.
Capture councillor Taylor's conflicts work? You did.
Okay, L2, changes to development conditions for the RCTC Caravan Park expansion, reference 2020/20118. Yeah, I've got a question. In relation to concern about the coverage of the...
What are we on, L2?
So this seems different to what we had originally, was it? That was part of, and what's the change? Like the fence is actually going lower at one end, is that correct, or?
That's what's been requested, Mr Mayor. So in December last year, council approved an expansion of the caravan park for additional sites. And as part of that, we conditioned the gun club to extend their fencing on the western side of their access near the clubhouse. And the fencing was to match the existing, which is quite high. It's the full height 2.6 metre fence with the lattice on top and the solid screen below that. So the gun club have now come back to council and asked that council reduce those requirements. They consider that it's unreasonable for the fence to be that high at that part of the site frontage and have asked if council would consider reducing that to 1.8 metres, I think they've asked for, so west of the site access.
Still with the landscaping in front of it.
Yes, there's no change to the landscaping requirements, it's just the fencing they're concerned with. So
There's no camping in that part.
no, there's no camping. It's the neighbours' main concern was that there was going to be an increase in the number of people coming backwards and forwards between the clubhouse and the sites to go to the amenities and use the clubhouse facilities. So they were concerned about privacy in that area. So Chris, the planning officer, has spoken to both parties about the change. The neighbours, the Kimlins, have said that they maintain that the fence should still be the full height. They're still concerned about the privacy issues. The gun club have indicated that they'd be satisfied with a compromise, so continuing the full height fence for a certain distance in front of where the property's in front of the or opposite the Kimlins, and then tapering it down to 1.8 metres for as it goes further west. Since we submitted this officer's report, the Kimlins have sent a further email to council, which was circulated earlier today. And Mrs. Kimlin has suggested that maybe council might want the opportunity to discuss the concerns with her and meet with her.
I guess that Danielle sent an email earlier, so in light of that email that came in, if council make a decision on it today, or if you prefer to lay it on the table and consider that email and possibly have a meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Any questions, councillors? But I'd like to move that we lay this on the table to allow discussions. And bring it back to...
Well, if you lay it on the table, Mr Mayor, it'll come up to the next meeting. Danielle, with that instruction, we could probably organise councillors interested in meeting with the applicant and the resident. With both parties, we can organise that.
Probably then, through you, Mayor, the Waldrons as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, councillor. Through you, Mr Mayor, to Danielle, what they're asking, the gun club, is it a big difference? Does it make a big difference in your opinion?
Well, they're asking to reduce the height of the fence. I guess it's roughly, what is it, about a metre or so
800,
less than what they've been conditioned to put in there. They have said that they'd be happy to, or they'd be satisfied to keep it at the 2.6 for a distance, which I think we've said in our recommendation, that they continue that for 10 metres and then taper it down as they get further away from the Kimlin's property. The Waldrons, who are the other neighbours opposite this site, haven't provided any comment on this requested change. When the Gun Club submitted the original application, they weren't quite so concerned as the Kimlins were with the privacy issues.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we actually conditioned fencing in that original approval, and then we actually changed it because the other party that lived across the road requested they didn't want to be looking at a fence, so rather than landscaping, so we actually moved the fencing on the original.
I think there was some discussion about that, yep.
Okay, so I've moved that we lay it on the table, we'll take the vote. All those in favour?
When, Mr Mayor?
Well, I think it's coming up at the next meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Or do we go out on site? Can we do that?
Oh.
Yeah,
Just
that's
meet-
what they've
meet-
asked.
Yeah.
Meet with the affected parties. And that's 8-0. Yep. Thank you, Dan.
Done now, that one.
LC4, yeah.
LC4, which is,
Yep.
LC4, page 60.
Okay, LC4, Roma Flood Mitigation Project Stage 2, request for extension of time for project completion. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to prepare and sign a funding agreement variation to the Department of State Development and Infrastructure and Local Government and Planning to extend the project completion date for the Roma Flood Mitigation Project Stage 2 up to the 29th of April 2022.
We have a second to Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0, 9-0 I should say. Okay, moving along to LC5, Road Maintenance Performance Contract, RMPC 2021-2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign both the tender submission and the resulting road maintenance performance contract with the Department of Transport and Main Roads for the 2021-2022 to the value of $5,087,560, GST exclusive.
we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. LC6, Roma Hospital Student Accommodation Precinct. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, well, that's not the right one, is it?
Up on the screen.
Completely different, okay. Council advise Economic Development Queensland that its preferred use of balanced land with the PDA development site Lot 142 on SP 257157 is parkland. Authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign documentation necessary to facilitate the transfer of the balanced land with the PDA development site Lot 142 on SP 257175 to Maranoa Regional Council as freehold lot.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
It is the same, but see they've changed.
Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
They've just changed
Yeah.
it
We had
around a
number
bit.
3 though, we had number 3.
There was a 3.
This is what I'm confused with.
Yes, third point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to endorse documentation necessary to create easements over services, infrastructure within the Roma Hospital Student Accommodation Precinct. Who seconded it?
Okay, so
Wendy.
now, Councillor Taylor, you happy with that extra .3?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak? Anybody against? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. LC7, function reports, waste. Well, we haven't done this one yet, have we? No.
I'll move we close the meeting.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I better read it out. I'll move that in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, local government may resolve to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors or members consider it necessary to close the meeting. As been previously tabled.
Righto, do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, all those in favour? 9-0. Councillor Edwards, did you have a declaration?
Yes, I did. Declaration of interest, item LC7. The description is function reports, waste, laboratory, airport quarries and facilities. Declaring councillors, Councillor Mark Edwards. Party with the interest is myself and another party. The relationship category is myself and the Roma Aero Club. Particulars of the interest, Roma Aero Club has
Change this. Mentioned.
That'll do. The Roma Aero Club is mentioned in the airport's report. And I have a personal interest in the matter being a member of the Roma Aero Club. Personal interest in the matter being a member of the Roma Aero Club and I'm not on the executive. So it's a type of conflict, is declarable conflict of interest, and the action I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
So just clarifying that, you're really only putting this conflict in, not about all of the L7, just about the airport function, is that correct?
Yes, about the fact that the hangar
But it's,
Roma,
but it's,
the
but
Roma
it's the
area.
airport, but it's 4.5.
Yes,
So really, it should be, you should put in there 4.5,
4.5, yeah.
because you don't have a conflict with the others, do you?
No.
Facilities,
Oh, no, the Roma Aero Club is mentioned in the airport's
Laboratory.
report. Yeah. Do you want me, I'll read that again. So particulars of the interest, the Roma Aero Club is mentioned in the airport's report 4.5, and I have a personal interest in the matter being a member of the Roma Aero Club, not on the executive. I'm pretty sure I don't have any other issues. Well, not. I'd hate to have to go out again. What's the other ones? Facilities, would facilities got airport in it, or probably not?
no, I don't think so.
Nothing to do with that.
Calico in there.
Quarry,
something,
definitely not. Laboratory,
Yeah,
definitely not.
Oranges in there somewhere.
Well,
Okay.
Calico and them come under facilities?
Hey, oh.
Well, I don't know, the council buildings.
Facilities?
Calico's under facilities.
That's what I thought.
You know, it's
I give up. This is a bit of a trap. Have you got one, have we got one for Calico, have you?
earlier.
That you could find,
On what aerial
Um,
poison is oranges.
were you
Make the
considering,
meetings go a bit quicker.
I was just considering covering the both. So Kel, okay. What's report?
What
What's
item
that?
number is it?
4.10.
4.10. And I have a personal interest in the matter because as I sell oranges at the Calico Cottage. That's it. Rightio then.
So yeah, how did we do this last year? We dealt with the issue enclosed separately, like to do with that conflict, and then the rest of the time the councillors were in the room for that. Because facilities is a big stretch of a report. So I seem to remember we'd have someone out of the room while we're talking about it, but then, and what did we do? We split it up or something, I think.
Weird.
We didn't do this last time.
No, we didn't do this last time.
No, not this, but we had a different process. We went through projects and that, and people were out for specific projects.
So, is there anyone, okay, I'll just read this out anyway.
It was also a different regime because the legislative change only came in October, so there was no concept of declarable and prescribed at that time.
Okay.
I know, please go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
I have declarable conflict. Of interest, item LC7, description, function reports, waste, laboratory, airport, quarry and facilities, declaring councillor as Councillor Mark Edwards. Party with interest, myself. Particulars of the interest, the Calico Cottage is mentioned in the facilities report, 4.1. I have a personal interest in this matter as I sell oranges at the Calico Cottage. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, action will be to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question? Councillor Edwards is going to leave the room for these two. What's going to happen when we come to vote on that resolution? We're going to split the resolution up.
You can do that.
We can, or Councillor Edwards can leave.
For the lot, but then would he have to declare a conflict on the lot to leave, or?
Well, we could break it up into by function if you like. I wouldn't probably go below function. I think that will be, look, Councillor Burkett won't get home in time.
But I actually think now I believe we should split out the two conflicts and put them to the side. So obviously to have all the councillors in the room for as much, because you don't have any conflicts on any other part of the report. It's just...
No. But when we come to vote on it, Mr Mayor,
Well, that's what I mean, we need to split it out first.
So I've got one now too.
Please go ahead, councillor O'Neill.
Mine is LC7 and it is 4.10.
Oh, I've probably specific.
You might have one too, John. The party with the interest is the Country University Centre. The particulars of the interest is that the Country University Centre, Maranoa, is listed in the leases and agreements in progress for 4.10. And I have a personal interest in this matter as I am the independent chair and non-executive director of CUC Maranoa.
So there is an update to that. It was executed yesterday, so it's updated from what's in the documents.
What page was that on, councillor O'Neill?
12. The type of interest is a declarable conflict of interest, I think.
It's a prescribed, I think, isn't it? Executive.
Yeah, it'd be declarable.
Declarable.
It's a prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll be dealing with the matter by leaving the room.
Yeah, councillor O'Neill, I probably would just, is listed in the
another one
leases and
here.
agreements.
What if they're,
Is that right? 4.10, because I physically executed it yesterday.
All right, so yeah,
That-
whatever you need to put there, but yeah.
Yeah,
Their own modelling class.
My go. If it's past tense, like the one that I've probably got concern over, it's an agreement that's already been resolved last year. That's the only. An agreement with the Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club was successfully negotiated with council resolving in its meeting on the 13th of May. Under a 5-year management agreement.
No, same thing as what I just did.
Yeah, but if it's past tense.
No, it's current tense.
Oh, because it's in the current.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
it's a management agreement that's ongoing.
That's a bit.
It's only a lease.
Yeah, well, tell I'm the same.
Picked it up and
Bloody.
Go now, is that what you're saying?
So does the council still hold the position?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So the question is, how do we split these out so councillors can be in the room for the rest of the discussions? Otherwise, you know, normally we'd have a report about CUC and that would be all about that, but this is just one part of it.
Whilst we read, Madam CEO, did you say these are going to be updated?
yeah.
Because one here, though, as of today,
Yeah.
Keltone, well, as not today, but as of whenever it is, Keltone will be out too.
Yeah, yeah, there's a couple of updates,
Oh, sorry,
because
could you
signing
wait?
is coming through every day.
It's the same.
It's the
mate.
same with
Yeah,
this one.
facility,
with
so
this.
mine will be the Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club.
There's too many in here.
Relationship, the category with, is that where I put on the president of?
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth noting that some of this information is included there purely from a reporting perspective. It's not that, we're not making any decisions about.
The president and, that's on, and two other clubs under that, so.
Oh, I've
Have we
got
got any
one
way
now
we
too.
can split this out?
I think
That's
it's just
tough,
better
anyway,
if
'cause
the,
I don't have to list the two under body.
that in the event those items are mentioned or there is any discussion
yeah.
for the person to step
I mean,
out.
same as that one.
Is there
Thanks,
another one
Carl.
again?
What about when we're voting on it?
Yeah, got that. Yeah, I'll have to say that one as well.
It'll either be in it, way it is, you'll be in, without changing it, you'll be out for the lot, unless we split the resolution.
I don't, the outcome for today is likely to be receiving and noting because,
right,
as we spoke, there's things to be updated. So I don't think it's going to be problematic, or there's the need to split it down further beyond function.
Righto. Well, I need to declare one too.
Particularly, there's no decisions about either of those matters.
There's another couple here.
I've got one too when you're ready.
Mrs. Irwin, is this your doing?
I actually don't understand.
Okay, I'll declare one on the same one on facilities,
Whereabouts, Mr Mayor?
and it's on page 410/12, page 12 by the look of it. Yeah, as I'm the president of Roma District Junior Soccer Association, and it's mentioned in the report.
Yep, third from the bottom.
Sorry.
And the type of conflict is prescribed conflict of interest. Junior, yeah, Roma and District Junior Soccer it is, yeah. Just around the other way. Oh, the second one particulars, yeah, oh, both of them actually, yeah. Yeah, righto.
I think Wendy's got one too, to complete first for you.
I don't have a conflict, I have a question about how we might be able to.
Oh, did you want to ask that question? Or?
Wendy's got
No,
a.
you can ask the question.
Oh, or just maybe through Mr Mayor, Madam CEO might be able to think about it while we're still doing complex. I'm just realising that this is a corporate plan as well as like how many different plans this is. You know, it's a whole suite of documents that we're
Yes,
looking at,
it is,
right?
yeah.
So take away, like, it's not just about budget, it's the whole suite of document. If we were to be adopting any of our corporate plans or any other plans here at council, as a whole suite, that would have all that stuff in it.
That's where my head is going to.
Yeah.
Like
Mine is
if it's
too.
an annual report, a corporate plan, an operational plan,
It's just,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because if we start doing this now, we could be
can of
pulling
worms,
apart every single
Yeah.
document the council has.
never.
But the other thing I see here, it says leases and agreements in progress. Well, they're already happened,
The
so
decision has
That's
been
it's,
made.
the decision's been made. The fact that,
It's just noted in
It's
our,
not changing.
in our
it's not,
corporate plan.
we're not
it's-
changing anything.
It's part of the suite of reporting
Yeah.
that we've done.
Yeah.
Should we get advice, lay this on the,
I just,
I reckon keep going because the advice we're going to get is err on the side of
So of caution,
caution
yeah, exactly.
until
it's a big,
something
it's
more,
a long
more
line of
you know,
caution.
they could throw our whole process in the case.
It'd be different if there was, and I
be no one
haven't
in.
looked, but if there's projects in here that relate to any of
And
them.
it'd also be different if we were, you know, like the Hibernian Hall one is the Dance West one, which is one I was just gonna do. So that lease is already there. No matter what happens today, nothing changes
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Mine's the
Me
same.
being in the room's not gonna change that
No.
because it's already there.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's no decision about those
no,
particular matters.
there's no decision making on it.
For you, Mr Mayor, Julie, you know, like with Mark Oranges and the other things, does the conflicts, you know, he might make $100. Surely,
That doesn't matter.
that's irrelevant.
surely to God,
Irrelevant.
you know, there's a amount of money, that's not gonna sway anyone, or
Doesn't
$20,
Irrelevant.
It's not,
$20, you know, like,
it's
Yeah,
not
it
money.
doesn't work like that, but
With
it's not
money
on
anyway.
a money thing.
I'm just thinking
you know,
more
like,
about a suite of
it's not gonna
documents,
sway anyone.
and it's more
All about
information,
perception, George.
not,
Decision.
there's not decision,
You
it's
know,
more about
$20 not
receiving
gonna sway
information
anyone.
and whether that might change.
Yeah, there's no decision to be made on,
No.
But there might be in the projects and in the
Country
financial side
University's
of it.
already in there. They're already got their lease, so nothing that happens today is going to change that.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I asked earlier.
But they're all the variables. The thing is, as solicitors, as we heard before, it's not about that.
It's really only that
That's
lease
perception.
agreement page that's causing
Let's
the
just leave it
angst,
out.
isn't it? Well, that's. I sort of,
Well, that'll get it done.
I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Bogan.
But it's there today and we're nearly done, so like.
How are we
You want
gonna
me to do
deal?
it?
Well,
quickly?
you raised it as a point, I think it's a valuable point. It can't be resolved now. We're one off
Okay.
being able to move forward if
Are you
councillor.
all guys gonna go out of the room for facilities?
Happy to do
Well, I think we've
mine.
got
Oh, only for those relevant, if those topics.
When the vote comes, you're gonna get out.
I've actually got another one as well. I've found one more.
Can we ask for that page to be removed? We're in open, can we remove it out of the,
Can we consider the document
right.
and not that page?
Excluding that page.
Excluding that page?
When's that? What's
How
that?
we start.
It's just that page.
Can we, team effort,
No,
John?
It's just page 11 and 12.
It is of no value
See
to
that?
today.
No.
So we could
Nothing
exclude.
will be lost.
Yeah.
So am I declaring or are we pulling out the
Oh,
page?
no, mine's on this page.
No, but just
How many more have we got?
You know, but
two more?
No,
I guess.
Mark's
So
got another
I
one.
move that we
I've got
on,
3.
oh, then again, I got a conflict, maybe I can't.
But on page 9, I'm,
Honestly,
There's only
we've
two
got
more.
two more to go. When we vote, we'll get out and then we'll deal with it in a fortnight, like.
Okay.
Okay, let's
Mine
go.
is the Hibernian Hall Agreement, Dance West. The rela-
This is called a can of worms.
The relationship is,
Well, look, you want to say?
Jodie Noon is the principal of that dance studio, who was a family friend. Do you want me to leave the room or not? I don't really care.
What have you done previously?
I left the room.
Yep.
Yep.
Stay
So-
with
only
that.
chairs out there.
Stay with that.
Declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the motion is voted on, and that's on 4.10.
How many are we down to?
I haven't found one yet. I'm still scanning, but
I'm still here.
There's 4, 5 out of the room.
Yeah, 5.
Well, we're down to 4 then.
so we're down to
That's,
No quorum.
No quorum.
This document here is going to be revised, isn't it? Because like, yeah.
we just take that document out.
Maybe to defer 4.10 until we get advice.
Which we're doing for Saleyards one as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cindy.
And it's likely that we'll just take that page out for the next discussion.
yeah,
'cause
anything that's got to do with what we've got up there.
When's
We
the
need to
time
find
to
an
bring up
outcome.
something here that we probably need to pull out?
Sorry?
One, after today's comments from Richard, we won't be moving,
We can't, you're not going to discuss.
can't
We
discuss
won't
it.
discuss it.
now's the time to talk about what we're going to pull out.
No.
No.
No, I'm
We're
just
in open
making the
right now.
comment,
Huh?
Councillor McMullen, that we need to get advice on all of this and then
Right,
bring it
yeah.
back. But I'm just foreshadowing it, that page that we've identified is not adding value to the matter being discussed. We'll just lay it on the
Another
table.
one,
You know, with the
Bassett Park Stables
Bassett Park Racing.
4.1.
Racing
Yeah,
stable.
let's just lay it
Yeah.
on the table and we'll bring it back next week.
But it was part of L7, wasn't it?
There'd be no one here.
The whole
But
14.
let's lay the whole
Let's play the
410
whole
on the
thing.
table that we did
410.
the facilities one.
Yeah, otherwise you can't do
Take
anything.
it out of L7? These are all part of L7, aren't they, or L8?
No, we took
Saleyards out.
Saleyards out,
There'd be
there's
more
no
for
difference.
me if I
So you've still got airports, quarry,
Yeah.
We've still got 2 others,
So can I,
3 others.
would it be appropriate if I moved a motion to remove the facilities portion of,
4.10.
4.10, from agenda item LC7? Would that then work, Mr
Yep.
Mayor?
And then we need, is that a procedural motion? So I think we'll need a seconder.
We do on it, when we have removed agenda items, we have, got a seconder?
Have we got to be out of the room because you
No.
can't vote? What?
No,
Oh, that's what was it?
just,
I think to have a seconder for that one.
yeah, I'll second it.
That's what we've done.
Councillor Burkett. And any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Sorry, who was conflicted with that, or potentially conflicted?
Yes, it may be.
It'll have to be,
We all.
Well, it's only
I'm good.
Councillor Guthrie and Councillor McMullen.
It may.
Julie's,
Oh, you didn't find.
you moved it.
Four of
Oh,
us.
sorry, yeah, well, I
I
won't
can
second it.
second it. You like?
You sure we can?
Doesn't matter who moved and
If you
seconded.
feel
it,
left out,
it's
you
too
will
bad.
find something.
Don't think about it too much.
Don't look too closely.
So we've got four
Yeah.
people can vote.
We're just removing it from the,
Yeah, we're just the same as, how did we do the Saleyards, Kel? Could you, maybe we could look at how we did.
Yeah, no, we didn't have a seconder
We
for that.
remove that from the actual schedule of confidential items.
Yes, which means it's still in LC7 too.
Yes, it was.
So it needs to be.
So we need to remove both facilities
Um,
and Saleyards.
let's remove waste as well.
Yes.
While we're
I'd
at it,
call
let's
it.
just remove the airport too.
Okay,
Let it fly
Alright.
away.
How's the
Why-
quarry
why
going?
not?
Anything to do with the
Can I
show
make
in
a
here? I'm just
suggestion,
trying
Mayor,
to
that
find
you
you
just-
something.
L7's laid on the
Yeah.
table to the next ordinary meeting of council.
I think so, yep.
Right, so.
That's all we can-
well,
That,
we
that
have
would
to-
be wonderful,
Well,
because
I'll move that L7 lays on the table until the next ordinary
We've
meeting.
got this
of
other
council.
motion here, we've got to remove that.
can, yeah, like I've already
Well,
moved,
we
so
never
can I just
voted.
amend that? Or can you want to
You
put
can-
amend it? Well, you're, what have I got to say?
Well, no, the mayor can put that we withdraw. Once a motion's moved and seconded, it's live, then it's up to the meeting to decide what to do with it. So you can withdraw, the first one.
Where's the, what's on,
I can, or the mayor?
No, the mayor, well,
where's the
Well,
first
I'll
one?
ask whether, does someone want to withdraw the motion?
Yes.
Who's,
Well, it was a mover and seconder, councillor Hancock and Guthrie, so
We
we've got to
can't.
get rid of that.
Oh, why don't you just vote it down? Or I'm happy to withdraw that motion, Mr Mayor.
Right, happy to withdraw it?
which
Do we?
that actually goes to a vote once there's a mover and a seconder.
Yeah, we have a seconder for that?
oh,
Uh,
I could probably, well, it's already up to Hancock and Guthrie.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
So do you happy to second it, councillor
More than
Guthrie?
happy to.
All those in favour? Withdrawing that motion.
Yeah,
Right, so I think we all can vote on that.
0.
9-0. Now,
And I'll move a procedural motion that LC7 lays on the table to the next ordinary meeting of council.
all those in.
Oh, sorry.
Next week.
Sorry, till a future meeting of council.
Yeah, which gives us the opportunity for
Next week, yeah.
All
we
those-
never moved that before.
Sorry?
We never got to move the L7 as an NY.
Sorry, Councillor.
We moved on L7, started to move it.
I'm moving that it lays on the table.
Yeah, but if we've already got a mover and a seconder, can,
But we withdrew.
Procedural motion, it supersedes.
not a problem.
All those in favour? 9-0.
So, Mayor, I'll move we go back into closed, and in accordance with the provisions, and I do that under the I do that in accordance with the provisions of section 25J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. The local government may resolve to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councils or members considered it necessary to close the meeting, as tabled earlier today.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, to go into closed. All those in favour? 9-0.
Same thing, but
Okay. LC8, additional rates modelling for draft budget. I would like to move that council proceed with scenario C, having the opportunity to move it forward in budget deliberations. And also with any other suggestions to carry out the rates freeze without anyone going up in categories. Also, point 2, so that'll be 1, and then point 2, that an efficiency amount of 20% be applied to materials and services. I think that's the right category. Is that the right category? I think it's materials and services in the budget. Or is it goods and services? Thank you. Materials and services. So that's the point 1 and point 2. So 1 is that. So good. Efficiency amount of 20% be applied to efficiency amount of a reduction of 20%. Be applied to materials and services, and a policy be developed for the next round of budget deliberations. Without any loss of scope. Quality, support for local business. With this initiative focusing on finding more efficient ways for council to operate. And this be included in the next budget deliberations next Wednesday at a special meeting. So I'll read that again. For council to proceed with scenario C, having the opportunity to move forward in budget deliberations, an efficiency amount of a reduction of 20% be applied to materials and services, and policy be developed for the next round of budget deliberations without any loss of scope, quality, support for local business, with this initiative focusing on finding more efficient ways for council to operate, and this be included in the next budget deliberations next Wednesday at a special meeting. And I'll also just also put in there next budget deliberations with a whole of council budget overview. Including with, so sorry, back up to next budget deliberations, including with the whole, so in there, yeah, including. And if we just go back up to point 1, please. C, with scenario C, having the opportunity to move forward in budget deliberations for next week, with the ability to receive suggestions as well on any other ways to deliver scenario C. And then the efficiency reduction, loss of scope, quality support, like initiative focusing on finding more efficient ways. Okay, do we have a second for that motion? Councillor Edwards, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll certainly speak to it. I believe we've got a council's decided to operate locally. We need to move quite swiftly to conclude, to being able to do a budget ready for councillors to have the 2 weeks to have a look at. I think we need to get onto this process. The organisation is looking for this change, and I certainly believe, as per point 2, this is going to be a fantastic opportunity. Just on that, that this is an opportunity to find more efficient ways, smarter ways to operate, and this will be something that will really challenge our organisation to really highlight the great work our people do in council. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I can't agree with moving forward with scenario C on the basis of what we've heard today from our officers. It's not in line with the legislation, and we've heard the risks that are involved with moving forward with this scenario C. Our officers have offered once again to run some scenarios to achieve what you'd like to do, but not this option. They'd like the opportunity to run the scenarios to try and find a different option that might not be not have the risk involved. So on that basis, I will not be supporting this scenario, this motion.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
I too can't vote for this motion. I can't vote for the scenario, and we've heard from the director and she's given us all the information. To undervalue the valuations is the problem. Legislation obviously is another one because we're not doing it right. And at least in this motion, I guess you have put in there that she can come back to the table with some other options. So hopefully somebody will listen and take the advice that we've been given.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
I believe this is a good model, and I think it's in the best interest, both current and future, for the people of the Maranoa.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I, similarly to Councillor Hancock and Councillor Taylor, won't be supporting this motion. I think it's irresponsible given the free and frank advice that's been provided by our staff, impartial advice. It has been, if this gets up, it will be totally disregarded. I think there is some real risks associated with moving forward on scenario C. There is an opportunity for the staff to go away and do further modelling, which has been offered, and it appears that has just been disregarded. So based on that, I just can't in all good conscience support this resolution, because I think it's the wrong way for council to be going, and I think it's negligent.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'll just sum up. I certainly won't be saying anything that was said in confidential. I think that is irresponsible for any councillor to be saying that, and I don't believe any councillor should be saying anything. I do believe that there is a wonderful opportunity here to be able to set our rates at a driving force in the Maranoa. I do believe that there's many challenges in setting rates, but I do believe that there is some flexibility here. If we can do it with even more fine tuning, certainly happy to listen to that. And as for the 20% efficiency this is a game changer for council and sets council as part of operating locally. This is what puts the rubber to the road, and I am very excited about this going forward in budget deliberations, so councillors can have a good look at it. Okay, if no one else wishes to speak, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, do we have any other items that are on the agenda? Was there any other items, Kat? I'd just like to bring up, CEO, that I did ask for an agenda item that to be put on to the agenda. I note that it's not on there, and I'd just like it noted that I did ask for that, and am waiting to have that so I can declare a conflict.
Could I just clarify, Mr Mayor, what's happened with that?
Please go ahead.
Did you want to just elaborate when you gave that?
I sent that through during the week. Would have been on Monday. So please go ahead.
And the time on Monday?
4:46 p.m. on Monday.
Afternoon? Yep.
Monday afternoon. Yes, certainly wasn't in the morning.
So, given that you've raised that, Mr Mayor, and as a matter of public record, I was unsure how to deal with it. As the matter relates to myself, I've referred that to the councillors who manage my performance, and I'm happy to leave the room now if there needs to be a discussion about that.
Oh, well, I'll be leaving the room because I've got a conflict. My main responsibility as part of my responsibilities is to table it, and then I was declaring a conflict, so I just wanted to highlight that. I also have
I'm happy to leave, councillors, if you would like me to do that.
Well, I don't think there's even an agenda item, so I think it needs to be for something in the future. We need an agenda item for me to be able to declare a conflict, I believe. So, yeah.
Once the email came through, I notified the CEO of both my conflicts.
But I actually have another matter that I'd like to bring onto the agenda. A safety issue in Charles Street. And I'd like to move that a safety issue in Charles Street that believe needs some urgent attention be included in the agenda. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? All those in favour? We'll go to the vote.
What are we doing? Sorry.
Including an agenda item about a safety issue, which I will explain to council, but first we've got to see whether it goes on the agenda. If you've got any questions or anything,
It's a bit, with all due respect, Mayor, it's a bit rich to be just saying it's a safety issue in Charles Street to throw it on the agenda. Could you elaborate what it is?
Sure. There is and obviously there's no reflection on council staff, but there is a large washout that is close to the road that I believe needs some more gravel on it, in it, and I believe that we should authorise some urgent works to, if a car did go through the bunting, I think it would be a real concern. So I do believe that that it can go onto the agenda. I believe council staff have a plan for it in the future, but I believe it's something as councillors that we need to consider filling that hole. So we could have that debate when we get it on the agenda if you wish to. Do you need any more information whether to vote on it or not? Charles Street, heading down past Phillip Street on the way to the Golf Links estate. Okay, so I'm moving, and we had a seconder. All those.
This is sort of just so we're clear. Is this a matter that you've raised with staff prior to?
There is a CR in
35.
there is a CR in the system, and I've made the director aware of it, and the deputy director just a heads up about it. But I've said I'm going to go to council, just so so it's not a matter for staff, and I think it's even more urgent than would go through an internal review process. So that's why I'm bringing it to council. Okay, so we're going to go to the vote to put it on the agenda. All those in favour? Okay, carried 9-0. So I'd like to move that that the very large washout in Charles Street be filled with. Do you have any advice there, Deputy Director? Any material to say, or is it just?
Mr. Mayor, if just we'll sort out the type of material.
Okay.
Like,
Yep. In Charles Street to be filled with material to make safe if a car does go off the road into it. So it's really about making safe, and then there will be a longer term, obviously, solution that I believe the staff will have.
And I think that was in the budget discussed last week. That was that rock pitching we proposed for that. The Mayor said he raised that with you yesterday. Cam and I had a discussion, and that's the course of action we're taking. So that's in line with what council want to do. So,
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Director Rob, you're doing this anyway.
we had a discussion this morning. Mayor raised it with me yesterday. I caught up with Cam this morning. He said, look, we can put stuff in there. It'll wash away. It'll address the issue that council has at the moment. And then in the budget, we've actually got in, with the rock pitching there to take a bit of that velocity out of there. So I think the intent was just to try and make it safe until the budget's passed to do the rock pitching. As Cam said, with the material we throw in there, the expectation is if we have a real big downpour again, it'll take material out again until we get the long term in. But this is just to take away the risk, the immediate risk. So but that was only this morning.
And just to follow up through you, Chair, Director Rob or Deputy Director Cam, once you'd come to that conclusion, had you relayed that to the Mayor?
No. It was only raised yesterday, and then
It was only a heads up because certainly wouldn't give the staff any direction to do anything. I just wanted to give them a heads up so they knew about it in case they would have any information when I raised it. Okay, so do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Is there any other further business, councillors?
Mr Mayor, where are you at with the
Phone call.
we got a phone call, but also the CEO, the CEO.
Well, all I really wanted to do was raise it, and then it's, I don't, I've just got to carry out my responsibility, and then, it's really up to, I'll be out of the room, but we haven't got an agenda item, so.
The eligible councillors confirmed that I wrote to you yesterday.
Yes, you did.
Please,
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
for the benefit of the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any further business, councillors?
We're going to ring up before we close the meeting, or how does that work?
Oh, I think we'd do that after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, on that note, I'll close the meeting at 6:37 p.m. Thank you for your attendance, councillors.